On the heels of one of the highest rated and well-regarded episodes of House of the Dragon, we have another that has matched or even exceeded it to land very high on the all-time rankings. Episodes always take a little time to settle into their final position in the fandom's collective hearts and minds, but there are some aspects to this episode that are undeniably great beyond just, well, that was really cool. No, these are things that are gonna stick. The plot moved considerably with a lot of efficient scenes as well. It was almost as long as the first episode, which means it was long, meaning we have more than usual to cover, especially because this was mostly meant to be a season finale, meaning by definition, it was supposed to be a big deal, something that moves a lot of plot lines, sets new plot lines up, something that's going to keep us wondering and interested in talking for 2 years while they make the next season. So the good stuff didn't get canceled, it got delayed, and we are reaping the rewards of having to wait, my fellow Westorians. We even got a song in this episode, and I wrote down the lyrics for us, because of course I did. All that and more during this review of Queen's Landing here on History of Westeros podcast. Hello and welcome back, everybody. I'm Aziz. With me is Sean and Ashea. We have review episodes every 6 o'clock Eastern on Mondays during the season, and preview streams at 5 where we talk about some book stuff, expectations, and get into spoilers. Sean, you know, me and you are both wearing black shirts. I have a green dragon right here on my microphone. You have some green lettering on your shirt. It's the History of Westeros Dance of the Dragons Greens versus Blacks tour shirt, actually. You could show that off. It's designed by Ashea. But you also have a green beverage, so we each have some green and some black going on. How you doing?
You can't see it, but I'm also wearing a green hairband.
True, I can't.
I will say, though, I was hinting at this last episode that my shifted a little bit to rooting for the blacks instead of the greens. Although I want to clarify, they both have awful people on both sides. They both have done awful things. They've also had good people on both sides trying to do the right thing. I appreciate that the show is, I don't know how to say this, especially because the perspective of book readers is going to be different, but they make it hard to choose what side you're rooting for and what side you think is going to win, you know?
Yeah, it almost like sets up a different paradigm. Like, well, maybe I shouldn't be rooting for, maybe I should just be rooting for certain characters or certain outcomes, or that's a lot of times how it goes. But we'd love to hear from you all, how you handle that. Do you root for one side specifically, or is it more like you pick certain characters? I know a lot of people have the position of, I like the blacks, but save Rhaenyra, you know, which is, I mean, that's kind of what Alicent is even turned to in the show version. So that was such a popular attitude in the fandom. Even one of the characters went along with it. Anyway, we'll get into all the details. If you have things that you liked or didn't like, tell us. Here live in the episode specifically is a great time for it. But you can also hit us up at westroshistory@gmail.com or on our Discord, our Facebook group, on Blue Sky, you name it. We are on pretty much all the social media platforms. A couple of quick comments from y'all. Karina Strick sends a super chat, says, excited to hear your thoughts. Love you guys. Well, we are excited to give our thoughts, and we love you guys. Books Immersed says, for an episode with so many big moments, the subtle ones were where it really shone for me. I don't disagree. There were some really, like I said, really efficient, subtle moments there that said a lot. Even the song, which I loved, like it tells the story and expresses attitudes towards certain important characters all at the same time. Just very efficient, very well done. A lot of things about it. So, well agreed there, Books Immersed. Very strong episode with some extremely clever and cinematic shots. Like, in terms of stacking it up against Game of Thrones all time, the way they did the cinematic moments and some of the shots were just really top notch. Smart groundwork, too, for expected plot lines to come. I do have some criticisms. I know Sean does, too. Nitpicks here and there, but we always do. Nothing's perfect. I mean, it would be weird if we just loved every single bit of every single thing, wouldn't it? Fire and Blood is also quite light on details in a lot of certain sections, and the taking of King's Landing is one of them. It's just kind of they fly in and take it and cut some heads off. So they really had a lot of gaps to fill in. So that has to be taken into account as well. I've harped on over the years a lot that adaptations should focus on the strength of the medium. Books can do things that shows can't. Shows can do things that books can't. And this episode is a great example of that. It doesn't mean tell a different story, but it does mean tell the story differently. And that shot from underwater with the dragon flame to start the episode, and the ending with the Iron Throne reflected in Otto's blood, great jobs. Creative, amazing looking, just the kind of makes you go, ooh, when you see it. And that's fire and blood at the beginning and end there, too, which is like, well done, y'all. Even the literary symbolism behind that was well done. So very good. Lots of parallels and mirroring. The acting, we've got a lot to say about that. There's some surprises, a whole lot of deaths. So really, I feel like I'm kind of gushing, but let's get to some favorite performances so my co-workers / friends / compadres here can weigh in on their favorite stuff as well. And I say favorite, not best, because as we've said before, if it was just best, it would be really hard not to pick Emma Darcy for, I don't know, like 3/4 of the episodes or something like that. I've said this before. I'm pretty sure I'll say it again. But this one really stands out even more for that. And that's wild because it might have been Matt Smith's best episode, but that torch he was carrying at the end in the black cells, he was holding a torch because he can't hold a candle. Oh, I'm just kidding. He's amazing, but I couldn't resist that joke. So, Sean, go right ahead and say who you thought the favorite performances and what favorite performance was and why.
Well, let me first say, gush away. I say this episode is so worthy of it. And man, a lot of times there's going to be crossover between favorite and best. Certainly the case here. I almost feel like it's the easy pick to say Rhaenyra. So, we could go on and on about, last episode, I thought she did great and this was even ramped up from there. But I'll go ahead and throw Alicent too. And I wonder if maybe I should even give a little credit to, I don't know, lighting, costume, directing and everything, because I feel like this episode, she particularly looked, I've been searching for the right word, frazzled, maybe, out of sorts. Her eyes are kind of bugged. I feel like her hair is different some way. Her face looks gaunt or distraught, and she's going through a lot. She's risking her life here on many levels. She's got a lot of little maneuvers she's trying to make in a short amount of time. She's stressed. She's worried about not only her own life but her family's, and the sort of scramble that she's in, who she can trust, who she can't, how this is going to play out. That was all coming through in her face, and that's good acting,
Well said. Yeah, I appreciate Olivia Cook's performance too. It's important to shout out these other performances when else they might otherwise be a little bit overshadowed, but there are so many good ones. Shay, what do you have to say?
There you go, mute you. I'll pick the easy thing, which is Rhaenyra. I saw this episode and cried really hard. And then I saw it again after my mom died this past week, and Rhaenyra's grief is so very resonant, and it is very painful to talk about, but I just want to say Emma Darcy really captures grief very well.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Ashaya. I wasn't sure that you were going to do that or whether you were willing to do that, so that was very brave. And yeah, she did lose her mother just this past week, so that's what we're going through right now. And yeah, really unbelievable timing. But frankly, Rhaenyra, throughout her arc, including as Millie Alcock, grief has been omnipresent. From her first episode, she lost her mother and would have been her brother, and then soon after lost her father, and then she lost a son, and then another son, and her first lover, and just it's been relentless this for Rhaenyra's character, and that is just a factor of who she is, and that's something to keep in mind going forward.
They made her so snotty, like Emma Darcy did a great job of really just crying, and her arm gesticulating throughout it was so real, with just wanting to grab him and move him, and her puffy eyes from how hard she'd been crying when that close-up we'll get into later where it starts with her eye. It was just well done by them to depict Rhaenyra in her grief, but also well done in the makeup team to really capture that.
Yeah, what we sometimes call in other circumstances ugly crying, which is really a code word for realistic crying. I've always thought that about that phrase. Like, that's the most realistic, the most grief-filled. So, and they did not hold back on those elements. They didn't try to shine it up or make it look glamorous in any way. I do need to speak about Daemon, as much as I made that joke about holding a candle and a torch or whatever. We saw every type of Daemon this episode, and I want to quote a quick line from Fire and Blood. Over the centuries, House Targaryen has produced both great men and monsters. Prince Daemon was both. In this day, there was not a man so admired, so beloved, and so reviled in all Westeros. He was made of light and darkness in equal parts. To some, he was a hero, to others, the blackest of villains. But I'm not sure we've ever seen him so much of both in the same episode. He was the prized battle commander, the problematic court presence. He motivates Rhaenyra with love and prophecy. The Gold Cloaks love him, but he's also imperious and terrifying to the Dragon Seeds and kind of unfair. We see him as an unstoppable killer, but also as uncompromising. He's a grieving father-in-law, but he also laughs in cruelty over a defeated enemy. He even sings, though we've actually seen that before, but his audience was Vermithor. So I don't think we've ever seen more facets of Daemon in a single episode. So while Emma's performance was definitely Emmy-worthy, I think Matt may have had more range in this episode, which is usually not the case, I suppose, but really cool. In reference to last week we had a poll for favorite performance, and in our Facebook group, we always kind of repeat this poll that we discuss here at the beginning in the Facebook group. Alan was the winner with 18% of the vote. Corlys and Alicent each got 14%, Rhaenyra 12%, and Shirako Lohar snuck in there at 5th place with 7%. Pretty sure Rhaenyra is going to top 50 or 60% for this one. Now, the gullet was added to the intro sequence. Very nice touch because they had the fabric in like rolls, which had the effect of it looking like waves, which is really cool. And then we have Lohar fighting Corlys. Is make an epic sort of scene. It really looks like the way you would expect a tapestry to look in the real world. And of course, it is designed after the Bayou Tapestry. And then they have Jace added to the tapestry as well. So we are curious if you all have some guesses as to what we might have in our next opening. Do you think we will have maybe some shots of the taking of King's Landing, maybe Otto's head, maybe Daemon fighting through the King's Guard, or fighting through guards? I'm not sure. There's some interesting moments from or maybe the burning of Harrenhal could appear on the tapestry, but I'm curious what you all think is going to be next. It's always kind of a fun thing to guess at. Okay, so Aftermath. It's like from the tapestry, we cut pretty much exactly to where the tapestry is showing us. It's a really interesting transition from the Jace's body weaved to his actual body floating, and that whole dragon fire above is really cool from underwater. It's the kind of thing that none of us have probably even ever imagined before. And it's
Can I
also
say real quick, Aziz?
Yeah.
Just referencing our last episode, we talked about the idea of whether or not the battle was over, and our different points of our discussion were all right. Like, on one hand, it wasn't really completely over, but it was effectively over, and they didn't spend no more time showing us, but they didn't spend too much time showing us. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if I had thought longer about it, the way they handled it is what I would have predicted. You know, if I had thought longer and deeper, that there still are ships floating around and dragons flying, and that, but they're not going to have another 10-minute action scene, right?
Right, absolutely. Sum it up. They just had the somber music while the other dragon seeds cleared up the remaining ships. And in that shot, this opening shot, it's actually a small bit of storytelling. You see a small flame shoot from the left side of your screen, as if it was one of those flaming pots that they were firing from the ships. And then there's this answering dragon flame. And it was like, oh, they tried to hit, and then It
was also another example of, I'm going to say, elegant storytelling, where several things are conveyed in just a matter of seconds. Like, those guys did leave the Harrenhal, right? The new Dragon Riders, and did get involved in this battle. You know, that's something that we were able to witness without contrived dialogue or whatever. You know?
Yeah. And then we transition to Baela flying back. Jace is on her saddle. And once again, a plug for the behind the scenes. It's really cool to see how they did this. And it's just kind of amusing that Jace has had to lie there. Harry Collett has had to lie there. He talks about how hard it is to just lie still and not fall asleep or things like that. One time he said he woke up snoring, and so they fly to Dragonstone, which transitions us to the Dragonstone scene. One of several scenes on Dragonstone. This one really follows this action or somber moment, really. The dragon keepers carry the body with honor. He was a dragon rider after all. They have almost a religious awe of the dragons, and thus those who have that blood of the dragon, perhaps quite literally, they have quite a honorific view of as well. Sir Lawrence asks of the battle. Baela says, "'Tis won," while on the verge of tears. And it's mirrored by the conversation later when Corlys says, "If this be victory, I never want to win another." So that's this concept. This sentiment is echoed, and will probably be echoed more and more throughout the season as the folly of this civil war really lands with more and more people.
That was a really good performance by Laurent Marbrand. Yet again, we shouted him out last week, and again, like the tears in his eyes, the way you could just see him crumble, like it made me realize he'd known this boy his whole life.
His whole life,
right?
Yeah.
You know, like whenever he became a Kingsguard, essentially Jace's whole life.
Probably felt like an uncle or a cousin in a way, you know, and
another. If I could follow that up, there was a moment that I didn't catch the first time around, but the second time, when Rhaenyra's over his body, kind of expecting him almost to respond to her, and he's standing behind her, and at first there's a moment where he kind of shifts. He feels uneasy with the scenario. And a moment later, he tries to pull her away, and she yells, and the scene breaks. But the point is that they were, even if in the background, clearly building up to that, they were setting that up. It was overall good directing and design,
Yeah, good point. Yeah. So again, this is something we've seen from Rhaenyra a lot, and I was thinking about this in terms of A Song of Ice and Fire parallels. Like Cersei has lost children, but Cersei is not that much like book Rhaenyra or show Rhaenyra, maybe more like book Rhaenyra in some ways. Catelyn perhaps is the one whose descent is a bit like this, where she has slowly suffers a lot of losses while being sidelined, and even though she has more to do. Now, of course, she's no dragon rider, but still, it can't be a perfect parallel, but that's one that really comes to mind. But Jace, the difference with this and all those other deaths I listed, Jace is the first death that she can blame on her own people. So it's different in that sense. Like, she's been through a lot of loss, but the others were either accidents or the enemy, right? Like, she can't really blame her stillborn daughter on her own side. She blames it maybe on the Greens and just the nature, right? Lucerys, that was bad luck, but it was definitely the Greens. Harwin Strong, I mean, I don't know if she sees that as murder, but it certainly wasn't her own team killing Harwin Strong, right? So there's just, Viserys died of maybe old age, whatever. None of these are her own side's fault until this one. And so she is, understandably, her grief turns to rage against them for their role in it. And of course, as a mother, what Emma Darcy says behind the scenes, she says that, or they say that she was robbed, Rhaenyra was robbed of the chance to be a mother. The mother's supposed to protect the child. It's not supposed to be the other way around. And that is part of what makes it hurt so badly. And then Sir Lawrence, where'd that come from? Sir Lawrence offers his life and his sword. It's very moving, but she says it's pointless. It won't change anything. She calls everyone traitors. But later, she does say he may choose the manner of his death. She's, once she's composed and back to being a queen, and having spoken with Daemon, more importantly, not that he brings that up specifically, what Sir Lawrence should say is in bed with a woman in a belly full of wine at the age of 80, like Tyrion did. But somehow I don't think he's going to have a sense of humor about this. Although he might say something like, hey, send me in battle first. Just let me be the first one over the wall.
Exactly, right?
Just use me. Don't waste me, at least. I don't know. But I kind of doubt we'll get that.
I want to point out that she's more composed, but she's not done grieving. This just doesn't go away.
Fair point.
Right?
Fair point.
And she maybe has more pressure on her than most people would to, get back to the matter at hand. But that doesn't, even if she has more reason or need, doesn't make all the emotions go away. It's also a pretty natural part of grief to look for blame. This sort of lashing out. On one hand, there's something to it. It's not completely unfair, but it's also not completely fair. But you can't expect her in this moment to be completely fair and logical and calm. And you can't expect it from her tomorrow or next week or next month either,
Yeah. And it's interesting. One of the parallels in this episode is the how dare you. There's a couple of how dare yous. This is the first one. And it's both it's all of them really are someone touching a royal who really shouldn't be touching a royal. One of them is a lot more obvious with Iron Rod, my least favorite scene of the episode. And another one is Aemond when Simon Strong touches him. Now, Aemond doesn't say how dare you, but he looks how dare you in his eyes when it happens. Like, do not touch royals when, except in extreme circumstances. So that was not the most, but of course he's in grief too. He doesn't know what he's doing either. So to be fair to Sir Lawrence, let's move on to the quick, very efficient scene with Rhaena and Sheepstealer and Lady Arryn. This scene was probably a minute and a half, but it accomplished a lot. A falcon is indeed no match for a dragon, and that's what this comes down to. Here's one of the how dare yous, by the way. It doesn't involve, I was wrong. This one doesn't involve anyone being touched, but she does say, I've done a terrible thing, and Lady Jane Arryn says, how dare you? And they talk back and forth a bit, and it becomes pragmatic diplomacy on both sides. She says, okay, well, yeah, the veil is vast. I cannot stop a dragon abiding where it pleases. And that's what she can tell anybody else, too. She can be like, yeah, I mean, what was I supposed to do? Tell her to leave? Ask politely? Like, what do you, like, honestly, like, I told her to go. She can claim either way that, oh, yeah, she's my ally. Or she can claim, no, I told her to leave, depending on what happens. So, and that's what Rhaena made her understand. She's like, look, you can play this either way, just... I'm a dragon rider, though. Surely you can make use of this, right? You said you wanted a dragon, blah, blah, blah.
She can even claim she doesn't know Rhaena's there.
Yeah.
I guess so.
I think that's what she's going to say. That's what she's saying she could say. But two things. One, Jane Arryn is not beating the Mon Mothma allegations with this fit. Two, it's actually one of my favorite costumes in House of the Dragon today. And I love it when they really add all these details with the sigils. And yeah, she just had some great outfits, very unique.
I did want to say about this scene, I thought it was pretty key when Rhaena said, no one saw that it was me. Now, she might be overly confident because Jace definitely saw, but Jace is dead. But they may not have seen that it was her, but they saw that it was Sheepstealer.
Yeah, Sheepstealer is known. You're right.
And so she's riding Sheepstealer later, or she's still gonna probably become culpable. And we're skipping ahead a little bit later when Rhaenyra tells Daemon, go find them. She's telling him to go find his own daughter. How's that going to go down?
That's exactly what I wrote in the notes here. I wanted to talk about that now because I think this is the right place to talk about it. So you're right to bring it up, Sean, because that does set up huge conflict. You're right. Rhaenyra and Daemon discuss Sheepstealer, and we'll discuss some other aspects of it later. But the part about Rhaena, yes, Rhaenyra is told, or this is what she perceives, that the dragon Sheepstealer pursued Moondancer and drew Jace to his death. That's basically her exact wording. So Rhaenyra wants this dragon and rider hunted down, and Daemon's like, yeah, I'm doing that, but after King's Landing. So yeah, he's going to discover, presumably, that the rider he's been ordered to hunt down is his own daughter, and conflict. Yeah, so you're right to point to that, Sean, and we have to just wait and see how it goes. Search for the sea snake. Alan searches. We get to hear his loud command voice again. The actual search here, I don't think had a whole lot of tension. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not saying that as a book reader, although I partly am. I'm saying that because Corlys was in the trailers and later points. Like there's lines of dialogue in the trailer that he utters that haven't been said yet. So even most non-book readers, I think, knew this was not about the tension of whether he's alive. For most people, it was for some. But it was very much about the character interactions that happened because of the search. And that was well done. There was a lot going on, a lot of subtleties. Alan, at first, not so happy to see Baela. There may be some bitterness, like this girl got the name, got all the proper upbringing, but they bond anyway because, well, Baela's awesome and she's respectful and she perceives pretty much very well what his problems are, just like she did with her own grandfather. She's very perceptive. It starts off with a nautical joke. She says he was stern. Stern, get it? And then she says, and stiff-necked to his own detriment. And that makes him laugh. He says, that part, I know. And that was very well delivered. So
it's always nice to get an Alan smile. It's extra nice. He's so stern himself.
You're right. It's very rare. He takes after his father in ways that he would not like to admit. But that is some of that distance is shrinking. And I'm very much reminded of when Baela spoke to Corlys and talked sense into him when he was upset and tried to offer her the lordship, and she just brought him back around, steered him onto a new course. And that's really what she's doing here too, and that's quickly becoming her role in their family unit, or a role.
I want to ask what people think, because I felt like his face looked a little battered. Was it just me? Did it look like maybe he had a swollen cheek?
Yeah, he's very messed up. He definitely got battered. Bloody, scarred, swollen, all of that.
And he's very quickly won over, not just because of the way she speaks to him and she's respectful and honest. She also doesn't coddle him, which I think that is something he may have expected, like a royal, to not just talk down to him, but to not take responsibility, not to be the one to bridge those subjects. But she does. And she refuses to give up looking for Corlys, which I think also is something that he looks on very positively. She's more less ready to give up than anyone. I mean, she's more positive about the search than anybody. So there's that. And it's also revealed that a lot of what she learns about Alan came from Adam. They've had a conversation, which, hey, they're both dragon riders now. There's a lot. Of course they're going to have conversations.
He may feel an amount of... Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
He may feel an amount of Adam seems to accept it, or maybe I should too, if he has a trust and respect for Adam. And also, remember, she just lost Jace. It's not the best time to be particularly mean to her. And she also contributed to winning that battle. Alan might not have made it out there alive if her dragon wasn't flying around burning up the enemies. You know what I mean?
Good point.
May owe her in some way.
One of those few smiles we got from him was when those dragons appeared, right? And they're like, yes, oh, yeah. Yes. He's like, oh, hey, that's good. And this is a real parallel to the Alice Rivers scene later. And it's funny because Alice and Alan are only one letter apart. That line that Corlys says, if this be victory, I hope I never see another, that's a book line. And I'm really glad they kept that one. It's a really strong one. It says a lot. But Alan only wanted the name. He didn't care about all the treasures. It's his deeds and accomplishments. He wants to be the son of the sea snake, not the son of a rich lord, right? Even though Corlys is both, although less of the latter now. But he still has the fame. He still did the things that made him famous. No one can take that away from him. And that's what Alan values. That's when Alan saw him chart that course through the narrow pass, the Dragonstone Pass there, that ended up being so crucial to their victory. We all took note of how he looked at his father with mad respect in that moment. He saw one of the things that his father has achieved a long list of throughout his career. And that's what he wants. He wants to be like, I'm associated with that. And so Alice Rivers is kind of the opposite. She's like, well, I don't care about the name or any of this other stuff. It doesn't matter that I don't have those names. I earned this. I earned something. And we'll talk about that more when we get to it. But I wanted to, for now, just point out that the parallel exists.
Can I say... I was just gonna say it was such a nice moment for Corlys and Alan, and I just wish there'd been any acknowledgement of Adam in this interaction. I like it felt incomplete.
You get the
to
name
me.
too, yeah.
Yeah, like, does he get the name? I assume so. I feel that. To really show that he had changed, he should have been more welcoming of Adam too there, but I think that's probably more the fault of the writers, directors, the filming than it is of Corlys the character. Like, they just kind of didn't take the beat for that.
Yeah, he could have just put his hand on Adam's shoulder and be like, nodded at him too, or he didn't even have to say anything.
Yeah, they didn't have to say anything, exactly. If he just included him in any way.
I didn't think of that. I appreciate you bringing it up, but I have this instinct to offer counterpoints. One, Corlys maybe hasn't completely turned around and become a perfect man. It's one step at a time. And he maybe even had a different relationship with Adam in the first place. Adam, I'm not sure about this, but doesn't seem to have been quite as hurt as Alan by the lack of recognition as his son. Also, I could be wrong, but I'm assuming Alan is the older son, so maybe it's more important to him, or the relationship. I mean, again, this is the problem with the whole freaking world, but the older son does or should or gets, in this context, more respect or whatever.
Yeah.
And so maybe Adam is already resigned to being his second son.
Well, also, like Ulf said,
is already resigned to treating him like one.
Like Ulf said, they have to respect him because of his big effing dragon. He doesn't need the title as much.
Yeah,
but you're right. Alan is older, which is different than the books. It's actually their ages are flipped in the book version, which is something that I think some book readers forget sometimes because easy small detail to miss. It hasn't come up very much.
I wanted to say another thing that's a little bit of a tangent, but still right in line with what we're talking about here and often through this discussion. I've been thinking about this a lot because I just finished Mad Men. I had never seen it when it came out. I knew it was kind of a hole in my viewership. And it's so interesting. Like I have the idea that Don Draper is kind of a good character, right? And I want to say maybe well-liked character. And as I watch the show, I found myself often rooting for him, but also sometimes disgusted with him. And it's something I think that we do as people, maybe even more so when we're like looking at characters in fictional works, is that we have a lot of respect for people of competence. When someone's really good at what they do, it justifies a lot of mistakes. You know what I mean? They might cheat on their wife or murder someone or betray someone, but they're really good at what they do.
You just listed Daemon, all those things. Cheat on their wife, kill someone.
Can I tell you, Sean?
Exactly.
It's so funny that you say this competence thing because, like, I guess after our last recording, I idly asked Aziz later in the week when I was editing, I said, what do you think is the biggest reason why Sean likes Bronn and doesn't like a character like Ulf or whatever, or likes Chris, whatever. And Aziz like thought about it for a little while. We didn't have an easy answer, and then he said, I think it's the competence, right? That they earned it, that they earned their place. Bronn earned his place, and Ulf was given this dragon. And I think that was very incisive of him, and you just proved it by saying this.
Yeah.
Because, why do you like Bronn versus Ulf? Don't answer that now. It's way too far off topic, and we've already just gone on a tangent. We have a lot to cover. But I do think you should think about that and maybe come back to it, because maybe I'm wrong, but upon thinking about it, that's what I got to. But no, do not respond. Think about it. Answer later.
It's really factored. I want to point out the other thing, though. I'm thinking more of
I just said don't answer.
No, I'm not answering that. I'm pointing out a different thing. Is that
I'm just teasing you a hard time.
Looking at Corlys, he's seeing the competence in his father, and it's winning him over, despite all the other bad things.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, let's move on to Aegon and the Larys buddy cop adventure. There's a cool audio transition here that I'm not sure if everybody caught, which is they went from the seabirds to the ravens, and that was kind of cool. Now, the reason these carts exist is that the vast majority of ravens fly to only one destination. So you let them go, and they go to that one destination. Then you have to cart them to wherever in order to eventually release them whenever you need to send a message to that one destination they consider home. This is, by the way, how Stannis outs the plot against him by the Karstarks. In the Theon the Winds of Winter chapter, Stannis interrogates a maester regarding where those ravens are trained to go, and he has to admit that they're going to Winterfell to inform people, Roose Bolton, where his position is, which enables Stannis to then send false information to Roose Bolton. So it's kind of cool to consider how these guys are living that symbolically. There are false messages within the Raven cart themselves, but it gets pretty comedic because Aegon is funny, and a lot of the other plot lines, there's just not much room for comic relief. Like Daemon he's too serious. Rhaenyra is just too full of grief. Alicent is just too in danger all the time. Although Helena does provide some comic relief. This plot line has two characters.
His quips in too, I gotta say.
That's
Daemon
true. He does get his sarcastic quips in, and the song was funny, but it's not easy to get it in with him. Now with Aegon and Larys here, it's quickly becoming like, ooh, they've got a lot of comic potential in this plot line, at least for the short term, probably not the long term.
Can I make an off-color joke?
You must.
It's not easy for Daemon to get it in with Daemon. It's not easy to get it up for Daemon.
Ooh, nice. No off-color jokes, only black or green. Just kidding. Yeah. So he says, I'm not talking to you, you're still furious that I saved your life, And the mention of him getting stronger and the medication and craving slowing down is important because, well, they're going to have to move around more, and he's going to have to be stronger to be able to be on the run, to be a fugitive as he is. And there's this great line where Larry says, I can't see anything except what's behind us, but I would be mistaken if I was mistaken. I'm surprised.
I love that line. That made me laugh so hard. Matthew Needham is just so good at these deadpan, very comedic remarks. It's a great pairing to have him with Tom Glencarney.
So Shea and I went to California for a convention years ago, and both of those guys were there, and they were both really funny on stage. And Matthew Needham, yeah, his deadpan, he's like that in real life. Like his interview about this scene, he's like, the crows were horrible. Well, we still text. Like what? And his delivery was 1,000 times funnier than mine. It's just deadpan, but yeah. So these two guys are really funny in real life, and now they're paired together, and it's like they can't not use that. Now the explanation here is maybe not straightforward, but I think it's pretty easy to understand with just a little bit of background. Now, the Triarchy is a bunch of pirates for the most part, and their leadership evaporated during the battle. So what you have is a bunch of individual pirate captains just looking to get some loot, which is why they were brought here in the first place. So they're like, well, let's just do some raiding, do what pirates do. This is a shoreline area, happens to be one of the places they're coming ashore. It's also where some Velaryon ships have pursued them, because that's what the leaderless Velaryons are doing. They're like, well, I don't have an overarching command here, but killing the pirates seems like a pretty straightforward prime directive, right? So that's what's going on. They're seeing the fights between pirates, Velaryons, and the Staunton men that had them captive in the first place, who they take the opportunity to get free from. Now, there's a little bit of confusion here. It's the kind of confusion that casual viewers wouldn't be confused by, because you have to be paying close attention to be confused by this, which is that Aegon talks about going back to Rook's Rest, where Criston Cole has a garrison. The men who captured them are Rook's Rest men, but they were presumably fugitives from the new regime that was, Criston Cole's garrison. So that's partly explains why they were acting sort of like broken men, why they were so quick to want to kill them, and why they were so dirty and bedraggled. So that all does add up in the long run. Well, the 2 episodes, that's not a long run, but it all makes sense. So
can I say a couple things here?
Another quick, efficient scene. Not a lot happens. And one other comment before you say your thing, Sean, is that it was Tom Glencarney's idea to do the arrow stabbing thing as a way to vent his rage, to show his character's rage and to vent it. And also to show that he's getting a little bit stronger, but he's also very powered by rage.
This was a relatively quick scene and had some bits of humor to it, but it did a lot of work. I think that it wasn't too expository for Lars to kind of contemplate what must be happening here. He pieced together, okay, Tywin got the Triarchy on our side, right? And that explains why these pirates here, explains to the audience who these people are. It shows that Lars has a bigger understanding of what's happening, in the big picture plotting of the whole war. Also, part of the comedic element was that one guard who was like, oh, he hardly knew what was going on and where he should go, what he should do. So get them back in the thing. And then that guy who's just kind of trapped in this scenario gets brutally murdered by Aegon. So it kind of shows the common suffering of the people, kind of gave a little face to one of the people dying. In that picture Shea has on the screen now, there's 4 dead bodies. We don't care anything about them. But they all have brothers, wives, kids, mom. You know what I mean? They all have lives and stories. And here we see one. We just got the smallest hint of, his personality, character, position, and just getting brutally stabbed to death. Also, it brings back to mind a bit of advice, I guess, that Lars gave Aegon at one point. You'll be perceived as weak. That will be your advantage.
Good point. Great take all around there, Sean. Yeah, I think that given what I said before about the nature of this group of Staunton men, yeah, he was the kind of guy that would have been given just easy guard duty. He may not have even been a guard back before they lost their right to stay in the castle of their lord. They were ejected. So yeah, he's fish out of water, so to speak. And that's a great observation. Let's move on. Another fairly innocent character, but with a lot more status and privilege. Helaena. Most of the King's Landing coverage and stuff that happens there I want to cover separately all at once. But this scene I want to cover differently and by itself. Couple of cool things here. Alicent comes to fetch Helaena, and Helena's reading a book about Nathi butterflies and looking at the butterfly cocoon there and talking about how the seasons aren't quite right or how something's happening a little too early, which is, I believe, is a callback to a garden scene in the first season. I neglected to look up what that specific reference was because this is all such a rush to get all this ready in time to do a live stream at 6 on Monday. But
it was
read the
Lars's
page?
in to Alicent when he was like, "God, this doesn't usually bloom here. This isn't really the climate." For
good
this
memory.
thing."
Yeah, you're right.
Can I read the page for you guys?
Yes, please read the
I have it
page.
on screen, but it shows the butterfly with half of it with the colors, which makes me wonder if this is in fact Helena's notes or something, not a maester, which is what you might think immediately. But why else is it only half colored?
That's a very good point. Her own notes.
And the name of it is Elysium of Noth. You see, like Alicent almost. It's just kind of like, I don't know, or Illyrium, but I think it's a C. So I'm kind of interested in that. But then it goes on. The snippet we get is, quote, "No other shade. The lines are distinct as if drawn with quill. They are said to cause death to people around them while living. But so far, I remain alive." Which is also kind of why I think it's Helena, because it just seems like one of the things she would say.
That's gotta be Helena's writing, right?
Yeah.
So far, I remain alive. She wouldn't, if she died, she wouldn't bother to carve Og. It's like straight from the Holy Grail.
Yeah, that was. I do appreciate how much there is to unpack in that 3 seconds. Because remember, Alicent bothered to gather that book up too, and I do feel like that was at least foreshadowing of some sort. Remember last week, I kind of wondered what was going on with Alice and whose side she was on. Is she trying to just move the pieces into place of the prophecy that she's seen? Is she causing those things to happen because she's moving it that way, because something she thought she saw? And I wonder if this is a ripple of that Alice kind of sent Daemon away, and now Helena's like, hey, something's happening too soon. I don't know. Anyway, it's hard to really unpack all the prophecy stuff, but I'm so happy that they're throwing it in and giving little moments, and even the detail of what was written in that book. They didn't have to have anything actually written there. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, great point. And more about what Ashea was saying there too. I think this is, or what both of you were saying, really. I think that in addition to that being her own book, this is the specific thing that Alicent is trying to protect now. Like, this is her innocence. This is what Helena wants to do, right? This is who she is, and she wants to make sure she can keep doing that. Whereas when we first see Helena playing with bugs and whatever, Alicent's kind of disgusted by it. I think way back in season 1, she's like, doesn't want to deal with it. She's like, this is like, I would rather you not do this. Now it's the thing she most wants to protect about her daughter. And that's a huge sign of how much she's changed and how much her values and her goals have shifted along with that.
That's so perfect, Aziz, because it's exactly, one, the idea she gathered that book up. She knows that Helena cares about it. Lars wouldn't have gathered that book up. He didn't get the milk of the poppy for Aegon or whatever, And also, I think that Alicent was so frustrated with the kids. Like, you guys are supposed to be royalty. What the heck are you doing? You're just not. And she wasn't maybe doing the best job of properly raising and training him. Who knows? Nature versus nurture. She questioned herself compared to the other son that was separated from her, who seems to be doing better. But she has shifted her gears to expecting Helena to be royalty or queen, to supporting Helena in whatever she wants to do.
Raise chickens,
which is, I love that, because chickens has always been like a metaphor for dragons. Like, fire-breathing chicken is basically a dragon. It's pretty funny.
Also a metaphor for, I don't know, cowardice. I don't know if that's what they mean here. But,
okay.
But it's also something self-sustenance. I can raise chickens and eat their eggs, and I don't need to tax the people and defeat cities with my dragon.
It just shows she's very cottagecore girly right there. She wants to be a homesteader.
And Helena gives us something like comic relief thanks to her wholesomeness. It's not like she doesn't think it's funny. It's not presented as a joke, but we laugh at it when she says, "I will not have any beasts harmed." And then she looks at her mom like, that was sneaky of me. Like, wink, wink. Like,
it was pretty
as if she's saying wink. It was clever, because she dictated policy based on her desires, and which is what most queens do 90% of the time. And she's doing it like once. And so, but that's what her mom wanted her to do. She's like, yeah, look at that. I'm politicking. Like, I put my desires in front of the thing here, and it's working. And it was clever.
She didn't have to be dishonest.
Yeah, absolutely.
She said what she was genuine and was making a decision based on it and expecting people to follow. It was very queenly.
I think she's very proud of herself for thinking of a solution, a thing to say that's not dishonest, right? Like, she doesn't want the beasts harmed, So that was clever. And I think that's something else that just gets Alicent in that moment. She talks earlier before this moment about what you said to me pierced me like a spear. I was happier before I was queen. And she realized I was happier before I was queen. Like I was, damn, oh boy, like I'm putting you all through the thing that I myself hated. Why didn't I realize sooner that since I hated it, you all would hate it? Why am I doing this to you?
Can I say real quick too, that ties in so well to two other moments. When Jasper accuses her of like maneuvering for power, she's like, what? I was thrust into this. I wasn't maneuvering for power. And also when, oh shoot, I lost the other one. Oh, when Massaria wonders, Daemon's like, she's a conspirator. And Massaria's like, or a tool.
Yeah, or a tool. Yeah, those are there. It's interesting that no one's going to believe that this is Alicent's true purpose, except Rhaenyra. And it makes Rhaenyra seem a little crazy to believe it, even in this case where it seems to have played out properly. We'll have to see how that goes forward. But yeah, and it's kind of sad to think about this. Like, she is playing a dangerous game. She's lying to her own family. She's doing all sorts of things. She's lying in Aemond's name. What are her sons and Ormond Hightower and Orwell? Like, what are they going to say about her behind her back, or when they get a chance, or what are they going to believe about her? Because I don't know if they're going to believe it's this, right? And this isn't exactly the kind of story where the innocents play at ease while the High Lords play their Game of Thrones. No, that's not how it works. That's not the quote we heard way back then. No, the innocents suffer while the High Lords play their Game of Thrones, whether or not those innocents are princesses, queens, or common folk. Folks, we have a fun season ahead of us, I'm quite sure. It is starting off with a bang, but we have so much more to talk about this season. We have so much more to go through, and we would love to have your support along the way. Join us on Patreon to help support the show and to follow along with some of our extra content and to get bonus material at the same time. We are found at historyofwesteros.com, and at that website of ours, you can find links to Patreon and a lot of other places on the website to support our show, and you get lots of bonuses when you sign up. Our episode searcher is quickly becoming very useful. The bigger our catalog gets, the more useful it is to be able to go to one place and say, okay, do you guys have any episodes on this or that? Because it's even becoming difficult for us. We have such a big catalog. We've been doing this for so long, and well, it's a good problem to have, as they say, but it is something that requires management, and that is a great thing you can do, a great benefit you can get by signing up to become a monthly member of History of Westeros. Some other questions you guys have. Let's talk about that and then dive right back into the other plot lines. Dom Tartaglia says, Ulf earned his place like his grandmother before him by being able to convince anyone anything. Alysanne convinced the realm to get along. Ulf convinced a bar and a dragon he was a prince.
Yappers.
I take exception to this.
He's
are
a
yappers.
yapper. He has the gift of gab, even if that gab often rubs people the wrong way. Silverwing liked him talking to her.
Can you imagine? Yeah, he just talks to the dragon all day. Can you picture that? Yeah.
Yeah, Silverwing likes it.
Our introduction to him was stealing. The first time we saw him, he
stole
poor. Someone's apple.
He's poor.
And then additionally, it's like saying that someone is good enough to convince people that they fought in the Iraq War that they should get the military discount. Like, that you did not earn that military discount because you lied about being in the army. I mean. Again, I don't want to say
it's not as bad as stolen valor. It's not as bad as stolen valor claiming you're part of a family.
Yeah, claiming to be
I see what you mean, though.
And aristocracy. But I will also say he's faking it till he's making it, Sean. Okay, respect the hustle.
Well, it's like me. Bravery a little better.
He does.
But Silverwing's a goer, He doesn't need to be brave. Silverwing's the brave one. So Haymaker710 says the caterpillar is out of season was a meta joke about the episode being 2 years late. That is great. A great catch. I'm not sure if that's an official thing, but it sounds right to me. It should be official.
Mr. Westeros official.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to our favorite scene/moment before we get to the Riverlands and other plot lines. Sean, what is your favorite scene/moment of this episode?
I was just in awe. I could not believe how good that scene. I mean, everything surrounding it, but specifically for walking through the blood to get to the throne. Man, obviously I'm not going to take anything away from George, and I understand people love the books and have certain expectations, I cannot imagine he wrote something that good. Maybe he did, and they're just ripping it straight from the pages. But that was so good. But even surrounding that, I appreciate her inability to properly behead him, and I think that's happened before. Was it Theon? Someone else, I think, tried to behead someone and like had to hack the head off, and that's very realistic.
It was Theon.
Yes, and I really appreciate that, and I also appreciate again her performance. I wonder how much of that was an acting or directing choice to kind of slow steps, kind of hunched over the uncertainty, and then the moment when she sat was like uncertain and in tears and kind of shifted to the side. She wasn't sure she belonged. Like every little aspect. I mean, the symbolic, perfect image of her walking through that blood. I mean, I cannot believe that's one of the greatest moments on film ever in history, period, TV or movies to me. I could not believe how good that was. And it required all the story and setup and George's writing and the production. And a lot went into that, but capturing that moment was so beautiful to me.
Bravo, yes. Ashaya, how about you?
Also, shout out to this shot. Shout out to the shot we brought up earlier with the body in the water with the dragon flame above it and the dragon flying above it, the silhouette, which was one of my favorite shots in all the shows, along with this one. So yeah, two really all-timer top 10, top 20. I don't know. It'd be fun to kind of dig in and come up with our favorite shots ever.
Just favorite Iron Throne shots,
yeah,
right?
Like
that alone would be, you could have a good visual feast there, right?
Yeah. For the humor, I did really love just Laurie says, I was mistaken. I am surprised. But for the full scene, for me, it was Daemon when he arrived back on Dragonstone there. And that's like a long scene because it starts with his scene with Ulf and Hugh, and it continues to his scene with Mysaria, and then of course with Rhaenyra. All three scenes were incredible to me for very different reasons, and you saw such different parts of Daemon in all three of them. He was more or less likable. The staging, even, I thought, like a special shout out for the one with Daemon and Mysaria, how it starts with like her above him. You know what I mean? And then he steps up to be above her. And then they sit down on the same level.
And they sit down and their colors are contrasting.
Inverted,
white hair,
you know?
black hair, black armor, white. Oh, yeah, it's really good.
So, yeah, I really particularly liked that. But, yeah, Daemon was abhorrent the way he treated Ulf and Hugh. Like, he was. He was a typical royal, the thing we've been saying the blacks have the problem with. He did that thing, and I hated him more than I've hated him in quite a while. And then, you know, the scene with Mysaria made me like, oh, well, maybe he is growing a bit. She kind of needled him and got in his head. And then, of course, when he talks to Rhaenyra, it's just like he's likable again. I felt his fervent belief. Yes, so it was just a great set of scenes for Daemon.
Yeah, I mean you're right. That was the basis for me picking him and what the things I highlighted when I named him as my performer. So yeah, I'm so with you there. I agree. That whole scene and just that scene was really about him. It was Daemon at Dragonstone, which I have a whole section for called Daemon at Dragonstone because yeah, it struck me as a really real highlight of the episode as well. My favorite.
I'll save some of my comments for that.
Cool. You will, yeah. My favorite is Fish Feed, which we're about to talk about. So let's do that instead of me doing it twice. There was quite a lot of action in the Riverlands, several different plot lines, some of which are headed towards each other. Let's go to the Fish Feed, which was the first scene in the Riverlands that we had this episode. Episodes with songs in them have an advantage over episodes without songs. That advantage is that they have a song. Well, episodes that don't have a song don't have a song. But the best songs also contribute to world building and or character development. This one does both. It tells a story and it describes a lot of things at the same time. It's also really fun and funny, and I'm going to sing it here for you. I tell the tale of a fearsome war. Thank our lucky stones. 10,000 came, but we had more and pressed them to the bloody shore. Now we can't see their water's floor, 'cause the lake's full of their bones. Fish feed, fish feed, fish feed, fish feed, smash to smithereens. Fish feed, fish feed, fish feed. We drown the fucking greens. I tell you a tale of a cunning trick. How'd it come to pass? Aemond comes, they said, run quick. With his one good eye, he looks a prick. And we've got Daemon, so go stick. You're dragging up your ass. So I love the song. I love songs. I love remembering them. I love.
Great job, Aziz.
Thank you. I love analyzing the lyrics, and there's a lot in there. It's not just like, hey, we won. It's yes, they tricked the the Green Army somehow. Apparently, they made them think they were running away from Vhagar, and that tricked them into getting near the lake, where they then trapped them with Caraxes. I think it was like, it wasn't Vhagar, it was our dragon. Something like that. It isn't clear, but there was a trick. And we didn't get to see the battle. So instead of seeing the mass of dead like we saw in season 1 after the Battle of Burning Mill, here we get to see a different way to show that a battle happened without actually showing it, showing the aftermath, showing Jason's head and a lion on poles, showing the song that they made about it. And the song praises Daemon. And that's really important, not just the way they're praising him, but the way that he's just like one of the guys here. He's clearly in charge. But remember what Oscar said? Let's be clear. He said at the end of last season, he said, my father pledged to follow Queen Rhaenyra. I see no reason to break that oath, in spite of how loathsome I find her representative. They hated him. They were following him in spite of how much they hated him. Now they're putting his name in the lyrics, and he's singing with them, and he's mirroring their accents. Like most people, when you sing in English, your like accents tend to go away the louder you sing. He got more of an accent when he was singing, which is like he was making an effort to sound more common, which is like the reverse of what Ashea just described of what he's like at court. He is a completely different man at court than when he is on the battlefield. And that not only played out here, as we saw, he won them over because they went into the field with him. They hated him, and then they loved him because they saw what he was about. Competence, extreme competence, legitimately excellent warrior, doesn't demand hardships from them that he doesn't endure himself. They're happy to fight behind him because they know he's going to make good decisions and take on these risks and not be crazy and be good at it, etc. But he sucks at court. He can't do these same things. And this is not unrealistic. There's a lot of people that are great out in the field. They aren't so great at home. They're great at their job. They're not good with their family. Like that's like we've seen people like this. Daemon's just the like hyper version of this, the most extreme, Game of Thrones style version of this sort of thing. Look at what he did in episode 1, season 1. He wore out his welcome at court. And then went and restored his reputation by conquering the Stepstones and giving his crown to. He's like, hey, look what I just did. And they're like, actually.
And he beat up a messenger during that too, admittedly.
In between that, he did a lot of crappy things. Yeah. That's right.
I will say here, even when he's likable-ish here, he's still like making light of this death by like, you see, like he's holding the head during the song and all that. And I don't know. I find that to be a not likable trait in a person to like I mean, they're all desecrating the corpse, but he is doing it even more so.
I think another distinguishing factor you can make for him, and it kind of what you're saying there, Shea, he is a much better warrior than he is a commander, if that makes sense. He has a lot of skill on the battlefield as a warrior, and among the other warriors in the battle, that's going to make them love you. But when he has to make tactical, strategic decisions, that's when he's worse, which is often.
I don't think I agree with that. I think his war strategy was really strong. I think his military overall strategy was very strong. I think it's his recruiting and his managing of politicians and personalities that's really bad.
Right? Like it's interpersonal.
Sure, like a Thrawn, someone who's great at strategy and bad with relationships,
Yeah. I'm hesitant to even say he's bad at strategy. I think he's very good at combat and tactics, but maybe shaky on strategy. But for example, though, the Stepstones in the end, they won it because he Supermaned his way through. Like they were struggling in the Stepstones.
That's true. And to be fair,
he as a personal warrior went and took on this risk, right?
And to win over the Riverlands, his first attempt was really stupid and violent. So you're right. That his initial attempt was really bad. So okay, that's a fair point. Yeah, all right.
And it's also a good example, like, don't kill the messenger. He killed the messenger. Like that's not a battlefield thing. That's a strategy thing. And similarly, the way he treated Ulf and Hugh, like that is specific something that the modern military has peeled away from. This idea of like, you're not supposed to think, just do what I say. It's a very, that's how awful things happen in battle, because sometimes you need people to think. People need to be able to make decisions based on new information that they've come about. Now, I'm not saying they did the exact right thing there. And maybe he just needed someone to take his anger out on. And maybe he even knew he's been a little unfair, but needed to make a point. Like, look, you can make that decision, but not after 2 days. You do it after 2 weeks, on and on. But I think that was an example of him being a poor leader. That even later, when he's given instructions and they're heading to King's Landing, he's like, all right, fly wide and don't let anyone come from behind. Is that simple enough for you? Like, okay, what if 2 people come from above? What do we do? He gave no contingencies. He's
treating them like soldiers, but they're not soldiers.
Yeah, they need to be leaders in some way.
They aren't soldiers. They've never been trained to be soldiers. They hadn't even been in a fight. So like you're right. It's bad leadership because he's not taking that. He's treating them like what they're not. He's treating them like up jump dragon riders, which is they are, but he's not considering the other aspect, which is their lack of experience and training, which is part of why he denigrates them. He's like, he doesn't respect them, but he needs to work with that.
They're dragon riders is the other thing. So like an up jumped dragon rider should merit some, respect, some politeness, some realization that this dragon rider could like turn on you and burn you when you're not on your dragon. I don't know.
I agree. It's the same thing. They have to respect him because of his dragon, but apparently not Daemon. So backing up to this scene a bit here, we have Simon showing up during the celebration, and it's a bit of dark wings, dark words. At first, brings wine, which is great because Sir Simon's strong, bringing wine, so it's the good wine, strong wine, right? And they describe the action. The conversation describes what's happened. He says he congratulates you on your battles at the lake or at the Red Fork and the Lakeshore. And the Lakeshore and the Fish Feed are the same battle. And so they're describing, these two. The first victory was the one we saw in episode 1, and this is the aftermath of the second victory, which was described. They said, hey, the men were driven towards the God's Eye. We have more lions to hunt, is what he tells Roddy the Ruin. So this is the result of all that. But the Dark Wings are
a quick little thing.
Yes.
I wanted to say earlier about the song they sang. That had to be at least quasi improvised. I mean, not like in the day of filming, but like for those soldiers at that moment, they might have been riffing off a known song, but there were like new things being added on, or seemed to be the moments of like someone thinking about what was going to be said next. I feel like that was kind of improvised.
I agree.
Did you catch that the first line Daemon said to Simon rhymed? I think he was still in that improvised song.
I did not. What did he say?
I wish I'd written it down. I forgot to, but I'm telling you, his first line rhymed with the prior line.
That's hilarious. I missed that. So then Oscar notices that something's wrong. By the way, Daemon reacts to the message. He says the Crown Prince is dead, and he tells Oscar and Roddy to march to King's Landing, garrison Harrenhal, but lightly, because you need to march in force, be cunning, be steadfast, cut down all left to oppose you. We will be the Queen's fist. And then he toasts them to King's Landing. And when we meet again, and there's something about the way he does that was really moving to me. I was like, that's good, Commander Daemon. When he, when he says things like that and gives us morale and fairly clear instructions, that's the light side when he's doing right, and the men are eager to follow him when he's like this.
Well, the undercurrent as well is then directly seen in the next shot, which is Caraxes, this is an army that was fighting with a dragon protector, and all of a sudden they're not, which has to have a lot of the soldiers feeling a little more uncertain, a little less confident.
You're right. So, and we see the scene right before he leaves. He talks to Alice, and this is the beginning of, this isn't at court, but it's courtly matters. These are the type of things that are discussed at court, and he acts kind of the way that he acts towards Ulf and Hugh. It's almost like she overheard them talking about wanting a castle, and then she's like, hey, yeah, I want one too. I want this one, So that's my headcanon.
You get a castle.
That's my headcanon, is that she heard them, and she's like, hey, that's a good call. She says, your coming was an omen of many things ending, others beginning. The cool shot of Caraxes drinking, that was neat. Daemon remains still untrustworthy of her, which, I mean, to be fair, it's not entirely clear what she's up to. And then later, when he's discussing it with the Dragon Seeds and Hugh mentions that they were told about a battle, he's like, oh. So he's definitely still probably in this, like, what exactly is her deal thing, even though she points out, well, hey, I did the Queen of Service. It doesn't matter what my goals are, my ambitions are. I did the Queen of Service. I deserve to be rewarded, which is kind of fair to a certain point. She says she wants Harrenhal, which is a big ask. A big ask, to be fair. It's more than just a castle. This is not like, hey, give me a small castle, give me a little something land. This is a big ask. But Daemon talks down to her rather than being diplomatic about it and pointing out that it's a big ask. And like, look, Simon Strong has been loyal. He's not the Lord of Harrenhal. Larry Strong is. So it's probably going to be given to somebody else. But why would we take it from House Strong? Like, Rhaenyra used to be with a Strong. Remember, don't forget about that, y'all. But he doesn't put it that way. He doesn't bring up the fact that somebody else has it or that someone else is given a good service. He just says the queen is not in the habit of giving castles to midwives, which is like, is midwife the sum of what you think I am? Which is a fair response. So you can see he's being a dick about it. He could have handled this better. I do think turning her down is fair, but he should have done it way differently. You know,
he's amused by it, so at least he's not completely a dick. You know, he has some sense of humor about it. You know, like he smiles here, and he even says, "We'll see what we can do, like what we can do." He comes around to like, you are owed something, but he's not realizing that he's, you know, alienated someone very powerful potentially who he doesn't want to be on the other side.
Another factor that I'm not sure if Daemon is even aware of this, but Rhaenyra has promised Harrenhal to the Freys. That Stark army wouldn't be there supporting him if it wasn't for that, right?
Oh, you were muted. You're muted.
Oh, yeah, Jace did arrange that. Good point. I kind of forgot about that.
Now, I think Jace did that when Daemon was gone, so he literally may not even be aware of that. Incidentally, that is... You know, it's so many things can go so many ways, but that is something that makes me wonder about how this pans out. That makes it, maybe Rhaenyra doesn't win because the Freys don't end up with Harrenhal. So,
good point. So this is an inversion of sorts regarding the plotline with Alan. He wants the name. He doesn't care about the castle. He says, or a mountain of gold or whatever. But Alice says, I ask for food and you offer me rubies. As valuable as they are, they will never satisfy my hunger. So, yeah. Respect means a lot in this world, and they want it, and for different reasons, different means of getting it, and they both are different people who have had different lives, so different homes, and that's most important to them as well. He is of Salt and Sea, as he says. She is born and bred Harrenhal. In this region, she's seen it pass from many different hands, as she says, and wants to treat it the way it deserves, and no one's going to treat it better than her. Jenny of Cold...
She may even have what we might think of as environmental motivations. Like she might want to make sure the Greenman's land is preserved, that the werewoods are preserved. There's things in that area that she, you know, maybe for fantastic reasons, but thinks are important and valuable and maybe even powerful.
Good thoughts.
And she doesn't want just some random lord coming in and chopping the trees down to build a new battlement or something.
I would agree. I think she wants the land, not the castle. I don't think she really cares that much about the castle of Harrenhal. It's all the land that it's on.
Interesting. Yeah. Huh. Jenny of Coldstone Creamery says, sends a super chat, says, do you think Caraxes can make fun shapes with his neck, like a silly straw when drinking water? Absolutely. He wouldn't have had as much trouble with those arrow things because he could bend his neck around and bite it himself, whereas you could see Vermax try to do that and he couldn't reach it. He was struggling to do that. But Caraxes would, but yeah, he's got this. He's got this. Another very quick and efficient scene. The Cole train, Kristen Cole's army. Cole and his men observe Vhagar above, who I guess Vhagar just like roars constantly while she's flying around. Like, it's like she's old and it's hard to flap. So I get it. One of our cats just kind of barks when he's walking around sometimes. So animals are quirky like that, you know?
Yeah,
that's Vhagar doing the same thing. Yeah. So they're going to move towards Harrenhal, which you might think, okay, so they'll probably be teaming up with Aemond as planned. But remember, Daemon ordered the Riverlands army to march to King's Landing and garrison Harrenhal on the way. So, yeah, this is a potential collision of armies here, and they may not have their dragons with them when that happens. It would be a coincidence if they collided exactly at Harrenhal, but that is possible. We've certainly had coincidences. But, yeah, they might go the other way if they're aware that Vhagar's in their path now, meaning the Black's army. Who knows? But they're on one side of the lake, and this army's approaching from the other. And Harrenhal is the North Shore, so they would potentially meet somewhere around there. Very interesting.
Blue Florist commented and said, "That's Aemond revving his motorcycle."
Yeah, it's not Vhagar. That's Aemond. He's yelling. "Rrr, rrr, rrr." Yeah, just so that is quite interesting. Now, we also know that Vhagar isn't going to go leaving Harrenhal anytime soon to go help some army, given Aemond was stabbed in the episode. He's going to need to heal or something. So if Cole's expecting help in the field, if something does happen, if those armies clash, well, Cole's army is smaller than the Riverlord's army by a substantial amount. So neither of them, we talked about the losing Caraxes for the black side here in the Riverlands. Now, it's possible that Criston Cole is proceeding, expecting to have Vhagar, and well, your stabbed princeling might impact that.
I don't want to catch you off guard with this, but if I'm keeping up right, the Riverlands army, sans Dragon now, is well over 10,000 troops, right? I think at one point they said 15,000. I can't remember if that was after the Starks got added. Some people probably died in battle.
Well, here you go, Sean.
Army is at most 5,000.
Let me jump in. I can tell you that the army in the song, it literally says, one of the lines is, they had 10,000, but we had more.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't think we have a precise number because they took casualties. But yes, either way, and I don't even think Criston Cole's is 5,000. The book version of Criston Cole's army is like 3,800, maybe 45. Okay. I think he adds a little bit to it, but it's under 5,000. So yeah, obviously it could be bigger in this version, but you're on the right track for sure.
They're outnumbered at least 2-1 by the most optimistic estimates, right?
Yeah, and of course, strategy, tactics, and other things will matter. But yes, that's obviously a substantial disadvantage to be at. If they had Vhagar, it wouldn't be, but I'm not sure they will. So neither will Harrenhal be falling to anyone anytime soon, given for the same reason. If he's not leaving, if Vhagar is just parked there, then yeah, he's going to hold on to that. Just like no one wanted to come try to take King's Landing when Vhagar was parked there, we can presume the same reason. It's funny, Allison said, you're going to be unassailable there. Like, yeah, she's kind of true. Maybe not from the inside, though, as he proved himself. Like, you can still get stabbed, bro.
You know what you can really see?
What's that, Shay?
I was saying, you know what you can really see in all the shots of Vhagar?
What?
She loves her job. She's just smiling. She's grinning big in every shot you see of her. She loves burning people to death.
She loves destroying the works of man, too. Remember, This is work. This is masonry work. A lot of it was restorative work done by Daemon earlier in season 2. This is just all, including stonework, not just wood scaffolding. Vhagar is just destroy, destroy, destroy. Anything Daemon did has to be torn down.
Remember when Rhaenyra declared that she was going to King's Landing, and her council were what? You can't, what? And the maester was like, look, you can't take the dragons inside the castle. You know what I mean? And sure enough, Aemond can land with Vhagar and slaughter this army. But once he goes in by himself, he's just one dude with a sword. Someone's going to get him.
Yep, and that's what we're about to discuss next in here just a minute. So yeah, Vhagar in all her cinematic glory is really pretty special. It's pretty cool. Like, I'm not usually big on just straight spectacle, but this is about as good as it gets. I mean, it's so cool. These guys really need to learn some strategies. They just don't have it. They don't know what to do, and I don't blame them. This is what you're supposed to do. What are you supposed to do when Vhagar lands in your courtyard? Most of them were probably manning the walls, because you're mostly looking out for enemy soldiers. You're not really looking out for dragons, because even if a dragon comes, what are you actually supposed to do? Like, we can't stop that, even if we're prepared for it. I like how the bats flew away. They know what to do. The scene began with the bats escaping. Yeah, that's the right thing to do, but no one else can really fly away. So this is a contrast to how Daemon did it. He came at night and was more like straight to the front, straight to the leaders, make them surrender, whereas he didn't strafe the castle. He just went straight for it. Whereas Aemond's like, no, I'm going to rain down some death and destruction first. I'm going to kill a lot of people. To be fair, the castle now had Daemon's men in it. He did leave a garrison there. So that's a reasonable strategy. It isn't just entirely gratuitous. But the difference is notable, given these two characters have so many parallels. It's like Aemond has to do it bigger than Daemon did. It's like, nah, I'm doing it better than he did, I'm okay with Sean and I many times complain about, like, why do they attack one at a time? Like, every movie, TV show, it happens all. This time it makes sense. This is a gigantic castle. They were not prepared, and Vhagar is scattering them in all directions, and most of them are afraid. And again, he landed in the middle of the castle, not like where they would all be massed. So that I can buy it here. His eye patch at court is cool, but here he has a custom helmet that covers his left side. It's so cool. He has a sapphire eye under it, but yeah, just protect that part of your face. You don't have an eye there.
Yeah, it makes sense if you're going to build a custom helmet that you would just cover that part of your face, and it looks so striking. It was a really cool design decision by the armor and costuming team.
He is dual-wielding Valyrian steel. We have not seen that before. That is really cool. He's in his armor is like 5 times better than anyone he faces, and 5 times more coverage. Like no one he fights in this scene has full armor because I mean they're castle guards. They're not expecting the dude to just appear amidst them with more equipped than literally anyone else in the Seven Kingdoms could be. Like, no one else could dual wield Valyrian steel. Who else has 2 Valyrian steel blades? You know? So, like, he is truly a tank. He truly is unkillable. So that's another reason why it's more believable that he can just go through here and chop people to bits. But he's arrogant, and that's what gets him in trouble, isn't it? Right, Sean? Like, why don't you take the discussion from this point where he gets to meet Simon Strong?
If I could back up a little bit, there was some of this that felt spectacle to me, but I'm okay with it. Like some of the placement of how people getting burned or the wintertime style, like a little bit of roll my eyes, but also I think I could justify that in a way because this is a story that's being told. Like it's a good example, I think, of how no one was a witness to this. No one telling the story was a witness. They just know Aemond went and took the castle. Well, how would you imagine that happening? Well, this is how I'd imagine that happening. You know, and maybe someone might imagine it a little more different, a little more realistic. But this is a fine way to present what happened. And it also, as you were saying, Aemond needs to do it bigger than Daemon. He also feels more need to prove himself. Daemon has already proven himself. Like Aemond maybe is a little younger, more mature, more bloodlust. Not that Daemon isn't bloodlust, that Aemond is just more so. And Aemond also maybe has more of a chip in his shoulder, more of this feeling he's got to prove that I can kill a bunch of people and burn them down and show you who's boss. And that also maybe is similar to everything I just said, how and why he killed Simon Strong. I feel like they presented Simon Strong as someone who is tactful, cautious, understanding. This is not his first rodeo. And none of that matters to Aemond because Aemond just wants to kill. He's not worried about the implications of killing Simon Strong. He's not worried about managing his castle in the long term. He just wants to kill. He just wants to prove.
I mean, he's a strong too. Aemond
out of my way.
Aemond hates strongs, right?
Yeah, Aemond hates strongs.
Yes.
I would say, I don't know if I'm just reading into it, but I think, Ewan Mitchell's performance here, there's a moment of vulnerability, of softness, of like, second guessing himself when he touches him. Like, I think, it does immediately go to, how dare you touch me? I'm a royal. But I think there's this part of him that is, that like, this is a person like reaching out and trying to talk to him. I don't know. I think his acting shows a certain vulnerability, like a split second of like, what if I didn't do this? I
think I agree with you. And I think part of why he kills him is like, no, I can't let someone convince. I've made up my mind.
Yeah,
right?
He's rejecting
this
that.
This guy might have a good argument. I don't even want to hear it because I've made up my mind.
It's kind of like The Last Jedi, where Solo just tries to talk Kylo Ren back to being his son, and he just stab you. He had that glimmer of like, maybe he's some good. Nope, kill him. And so I agree with you all. There was a moment of softness there, and it's why maybe he let his guard down also, because he did kind of. Part of it was maybe arrogance. He didn't take them as seriously, and he got stabbed for it, right? So, it's too bad, too, because, like, Aemond with his incredible armor and Simon's just drip, like, they could have shared together side by side, but alas, and this is very similar to the taking of King's Landing, when Daemon's like, well, we gotta have heads. If we don't have Aegon, we gotta have heads. Aemon's like, I seek Daemon Targaryen. If they had just handed over Daemon, of course, that was never going to happen, then maybe that was the one way they could have survived. But he's like, okay, well, I'm going to take your heads then, since there's no Daemon here. Yeah,
Aemon would have been totally distracted. He wouldn't have cared about them at all.
Yeah,
if Daemon had been there.
It's a good point. I mean, he may have taken
even some other warrior, some other person that did have a sword and challenged him. He can hack that guy down and then confer with Simon Strong about what to do next. But there wasn't another person to meet his violence.
He was eager to chat, like you said, prove himself. Like someone draw your sword, prove yourself, and the adrenaline wears off after he's killed the three and one of them has stabbed him, and then he just sees Alice Rivers standing there, kind of like almost like a dark-haired version of his mother. And it's so symbolic. He falls before her, prostrate in blood. And so instead of the Simon Strong pairing, this is the pairing. And it just so happens that she's mad at Daemon about not getting what she wanted. Now here comes along. Can we only imagine what Alice will do to Prince Aemond, a guy with mother/older women issues, and he's in a wounded state? I mean, Daemon just turned her down and was rude about it. Now here comes a different Targaryen prince with a larger dragon, a larger Valyrian steel blade, and much larger psychological issues, and a lot less life experience, and a lot less blood, because he was just stabbed.
No current partner other than his regular King's Landing boo Sylvie. But
you're right, never had a real relationship.
Yeah, never having a real relationship, never having a wife. He's a good target.
So how juicy is this setup, Sean?
Yeah, a couple of things. One, Alice is just a magnet to broken princes, apparently.
Well said. Well said.
Also, a little, I don't know, detail I'm trying to remember. Is Aemond at least ostensibly betrothed to a Baratheon daughter now?
Yes.
That's still a thing, right?
He is betrothed.
Not that he really cares about that much, but...
and the Baratheon, where are the Baratheons? So he's probably pissed at them. Like, where the hell,
Right, yeah. And one other thing, too, I feel like this is a parallel to Rhaenyra approaching the throne in a trail of blood. He's approaching Alice in a trail, and maybe you could, if I'm right, that is a parallel, intended or otherwise, that it's his own blood versus someone else's blood. There's a lot you can maybe say about this scene or construe from this scene symbolically.
Damn right. Yeah, I'm very excited for where this one's going. We definitely named this one, me and Ashaya both, as one of the plot lines we were most excited for this season. And it's been going good so far. But let's move from Daemon to Dragonstone. We've talked a little bit about some of these parts, but let's cover the bits we haven't. It's almost easy to forget how long it's been since Daemon's been at court. Because especially since he's had a conversation with Rhaenyra, but that's because she flew to him. So it kind of maybe felt like he's been around court more, but he hasn't. So he's returning to meet the Dragon Seeds for the first time, to see Mysaria again, to be around some of these other counselors who really didn't have as much of a role as when he was around. And yeah, it's as we've said, he's not good with this. This is not Daemon at his best. He calls them Hugh and Ulf the Smith and the Sot. That tells us a lot. Vanessa Lore 9942 says the Gold Cloaks have been loyal to Daemon for 20 years, so that's a good point in favor of him not being a bad commander. Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's different ways to be a good and bad commander, and in the case of the Gold Cloaks, well, he rose them up from very little. There's a lot more thankfulness, I think, more gratitude from the Gold Cloaks, but that counts. That's being to them, he was a good commander.
Also, not all the Gold Cloaks, Mysaria had to tip Daemon off to someone who would be loyal to him still, and this one commander happened to be loyal to him still. And also might be a little more likely, as I was saying, a warrior, he might have won some of the respect more so than as a commander. He didn't last very long as a commander, right?
You're right.
Hang around and manage the city, which would require more strategic decisions. He just went through and hacked some people's hands off for a few days, and
yeah, they thought that's a good commander. But so it's in the eye of the beholder, So when he meets the Dragon Seeds, it's the rogue prince himself, and then Ulf's like, wait, I'm not supposed to do that. Remember what I did when I tried to meet Jace? Yeah, he almost tried to hug him. It was almost how he tried to greet Jace. He did hug Jace. He actually did hug Jace.
Which is a sweet thing. I'm just going to say, he's like, oh, this is a family who's welcoming me into their family as if I am the relative. I'm going to be physically affectionate with them. And yet he just gets rejected and insulted and smacked. And again, in Daemon's case, there are extenuating circumstances. He is grieving Jace. He is upset about this, all of these things. Jace did not have as many extenuating circumstances, and he was just a little brat about it.
Yeah. But so,
let's real quick, I want to point out a flip side to something. We've talked about how, in the past, Rhaenyra and some of these other royals don't really understand the rapport of the common folk. Well, the common folk don't necessarily understand the rapport of the royalty either, right? Ulf's never been at court. He doesn't quite get the, hey, don't go up and grab him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
True. So Daemon is mad that they're there, and setting aside him treating them badly, he does have good reason to be upset with them. He doesn't have a right, in my opinion, to talk down to them, to be a bad leader, as we discussed earlier with he should recognize that they are not soldiers, and he shouldn't be treated like soldiers. But they're not following orders is going to cost them severely and will probably get a lot of people killed. And he's mad about that. These are men that he just left, that he was just bonding with. And now he's like, uh-oh, a lot of them might die now. And I mean, Harrenhal got torched. So proof was right there. He was like, Simon Strong is dead. So he doesn't know that, but he's thinking that. And he's mad that these two could have stopped that they thought of it and had a plan for it, and then they just, because of what? Why did they leave? And at first his thinking is, you guys just left. And then he backs down a little bit when Hugh says, first I thought she was a maester, but maybe she was a witch. She told us about the battle. And he's like, that gives him pause, because it's like, oh, Alice Rivers, huh? All right, well, I can't exactly tell you guys to not think and then figure her out. We didn't prepare you well at all. We definitely didn't prepare you to deal with Alice Rivers. So
that was such a relief to me that they actually got those words out. Like, I was like on edge the whole time they're talking, like, let them finish their sentence and tell you it was a witch. You need to hear these words, Daemon. And I thought he smacked, Ulf, and I was like, oh no, that's going to be one of those classic like misunderstandings where someone just doesn't get the last word out. But they did. And so Daemon has some good information here, I think.
This episode is a good demonstration. We talked a lot about how like a conversation is going and something interrupts it and we don't get to finish. Daemon does that a lot. Daemon does a lot of interrupting people with his quips. He's trying to put them in their place or whatever, but sometimes we don't need it. We kind of know what they're saying. That's why he cuts them off. But that didn't quite happen here. They did get to inform him of the witch.
He also, to be fair to Daemon, is that he's come back to court and he perceives that people are not following Rhaenyra's orders. He thinks this is like a systematic problem, that it's not just these two guys. It's also the counselors. It was also Jace. It was also these other things. So, and he doesn't trust Mazzaria, so he sees a lot of people around her so that's part of why he comes in there so imperiously. Now, that's partly just his default. So it's like he's falling back on something he knows when he should have been more thoughtful about it. But he's right. He suspects correctly that they're not listening to her, that they're balking orders that they wouldn't balk him for. Remember what he says when it says we're going to go to King's Landing, and Bartimus and Gerardis are like, well, and he says, I did not detect any ambiguity in the Queen's statement, and it shuts them down completely. And it's like, well, maybe we should be winning consensus here rather than. But Daemon's just. From Daemon's perspective, we tried that. It didn't work. They aren't following orders, so we're just going to have to get nastier. I'm not sure getting nastier is the right approach, but he's right to a certain degree that their current approach wasn't working. Rhaenyra's not having her orders followed very well. And Daemon, it's tough for Daemon because he doesn't respect hardly anybody. And these guys do not have the few qualities that he might respect in somebody, which is bravery in combat, accomplishments. And again, these guys have never fought in a battle. So, like, they haven't really had a chance. So, yeah. So there's a lot of conflict here in terms of expectations, in terms of what Daemon expects, in terms of those aren't fair expectations, in terms of, well, they should at least follow some order. Yeah, I don't agree with him about a whole lot, but I do see some of his conundrum here.
But where's the line? They didn't tell them.
I don't know.
Because okay, do you want us to wait there for 2 months if no one ever comes? Like, there has to be a point where you tell someone, hey, wait here for 1 week. Just like give them some line to follow, and they didn't have that. So it was a problem in leadership. I think less a problem from them, because I think it was reasonable to be like, hey, it's been multiple days. We've just been here. We're hearing that there's some other battle going on. What would have been smarter, perhaps, is for 2 of them to leave and 1 of them to stay watch, but they weren't trained to think that let's split up and keep Vermithor, the strongest one, here, and us quicker, more, ones go to the battle. But yeah, they aren't trained for that.
Yeah, it was difficult all around.
They weren't trained to think, and you went on the specifics, but just in general, Damon right now saying, don't think. Well, they need to think. That's something you need. And it's different if they were privates. If they were like new recruits in a squad that had a sergeant and a captain and they were part of this big battle. But these guys are off on their own. They need more direction. They need to know the commander's intent. They need contingency plans. And Daemon continues to not give them that.
Yeah, he's treating them for what the station that they used to have, not what they are now. He called the Smith and the Sot. They're not the Smith and the Sot anymore. They're two dragon riders.
Even that scene when he kind of gave out some orders, he's like, the prince is dead. I'm going to fly back. You guys are going to march. He was talking to the other commanders that can think. They do know and have the experience of how long it will take. Where do we get food? It'll protect the flanks. These guys will hammer out the details. And he does expect them to think. But Hugh can't hammer out the details of like, just look out for a bad guy. Okay, what if there's 3 bad guys? What he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't have the experience or the correct thought process or whatever it is for contingencies that might come up. And Daemon doesn't even allow him to think about what those might be. Like if they had a legitimate question, Daemon is shutting it down preemptively. Don't even ask me. I'm out of here. Do what you're told. Okay, what do you think's going to happen next? So
if I were Ulf, I would not go about repeating the story he used to tell of being related to Viserys and Daemon. Do not call Daemon your brother. Not yet, anyway, Ulf.
Or even kin.
Yeah. So it's also neat to see. I like that Hugh pointed out that he thought maybe she was a maester. Now, a lot of people will be like, well, how is that even possible? There's no such thing as a female maester. But this is a believable mistake for a common-born guy who's never been inside a castle until now. Maesters only live in castles. Maesters are castle-bound. They almost never leave castles. So he would know very little about that. In fact, Dragonstone is probably the first one he's ever been inside. What's that?
And he was uncertain about that. And at first, he's like, a maester? Like, he knew that was a weird
Well,
guess,
what I'm saying is that if he had known better, he would never have even guessed that about her, because women aren't maesters. But he's not aware of that.
I think he knew it sounded a little crazy to start off with witch, and he had to kind of ease into it.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe it's this crazy thing, or this crazy thing.
Even though she straight up said that she was one. But yeah, he still isn't going to just repeat that, because it sounds crazy. He knows it sounds like I put it last week, it sounds like the dog ate my homework. Like, a witch? Come on, you could think of a better excuse than that. If you're gonna lie, like that's a lazy lie, right? Yeah.
And you saw even Ulf was like, Adam left too. Like he was immediately cowardly trying to excuse himself and put blame on someone else.
Yeah.
Ulf was at least trying to explain it, but also was worried it was a poor explanation.
Hugh was, you mean, but yes.
Hugh, I might have misspoke there.
Yeah. Did you realize your pun you made there, Sean, when you said Hugh might not be able to hammer out the details?
Yes, I totally did that on purpose.
So Mazzaria is next. Daemon doing his tour around Dragonstone. He's surprised to see Mazzaria not just out and about, but close to the queen, because as he says, you were a prisoner when I left. But she has that sort of skill, and he recognizes that skill as a possible threat, which, fair. I mean, that is a possible threat. And he says that she slithers this and like an eel, whereas in the book she's called the white worm. So that's kind of a joke there, that eel slithering, but don't actually call her a worm.
The blood worm and the white worm.
The blood worm and the white worm, that's right. And he's like, are you waiting here to like coiling to strike at me? And she's like, not everything is about you, Daemon. But it kind of is about him. It is definitely somewhat about him, because she immediately starts saying things to Rhaenyra. She's like, remember who trusted you, remember who's been more faithful.
Mazzaria knows what'll cut Daemon, what will actually like needle into his head a little bit, right?
Absolutely. She knows what to say.
Can I say, though, I think she might also be legitimately worried for her life. Like, if she does or says the wrong thing to the wrong person, if Daemon gets in her head, she might. And I think at that moment when she's doing everything is about you, Daemon, she wants revenge on Otto Hightower. That's what this is about. She's maneuvering in a position to get revenge on the Greens. Whoever is involved in that, she maybe not have it against Alicent, but against Aegon. That was her motivation she gave last season, was like, I want them to stop using kids as combatants in the city. It's not right. And then after making that request to Otto burns her home. You know what I mean? she wants revenge on Otto and maybe the Greens in general. Not everything's about you, Daemon.
Yeah, and when she brings that up, that I'm no friend of the Hightowers, he's like, I have no doubt about that. Basically, he doesn't doubt her on that one thing, and that's where they find some common ground briefly when they talk about Alicent, because neither of them completely grasp Rhaenyra's relationship with Alicent. They're both maybe a little bit jealous. Daemon projects a little when he says, does that make you jealous? And it's like, does it make you jealous? She doesn't say that, but like, that's kind of...
I'm only worried about the queen.
Yeah, I'm only worried about the queen. He's like, oh yeah, me too. No, you're not. Daemon can't pretend he's worried about only someone else and not himself. But this conversation is interrupted by Maester Gorman, or Gerardis rather, bringing news of Vhagar on the move. And that's a big deal. And it gives Daemon a good reason to approach Rhaenyra, because when Daemon first comes up, Mazzari's like, yeah, she's not seeing anybody. And so that's a little bit of a power move there too. It's like, well, she'll see me. I'm just going to go in. But he doesn't actually do that. He now has like a reason with pressing news. So it doesn't actually end up being a bit of a power move. So let's transition to that. Rhaenyra talking to Daemon. It's an interesting start to the scene. They start with just her eyeball, and you can see her like Targaryen eye color, which is neat. I guess that might be they did that to make her eyelashes look like that, or maybe she just has light colored eyelashes.
Yeah, I mean, I could believe that Aemond Darcy that they have this shade of eyelash, but I could also believe that they used a little bit of mascara that lightened it. That's what I'm guessing, is that it's not that pale, even though they are kind of pale. But look at their eyes are so puffy here.
Mm-hmm.
It's really like I have
so
to
blue,
imagine that Aemond Darcy was just like, okay, I'll cry for a few hours.
or give me some pollen. Find something I'm allergic to, shove it in my face. Yeah. So they talk about Sheepstealer. Sheepstealer is known. That's a name that's already out there. It wasn't that Rhaena gave the dragon that name. Rhaena probably knew who the dragon was too, and that makes sense. Our working theory is that Sheepstealer was attacked as a younger dragon, maybe by the cannibal or just any of the other big dragons, and flew off. Never was afraid of being bad. This is the kind of thing that sends animals away from a litter or away from whatever. This is pretty typical or normal. But clearly wherever he had gone wasn't so well known. Daemon says taming a wild dragon is impossible, which might be a jarring line to hear, but to that point in history, it had never been done. In the book, it was never done until it was done with Sheepstealer either. So Sheepstealer in both book and show is the first example ever of a wild dragon taming that either side knows of. So
I question the term taming. I think you could argue that still no wild dragon has not been tamed. Like allowed her to ride him a little bit is different from tamed,
And this is why the loss of the Nettles version of the taming is a big deal, because they could have written it that Rhaena slowly won over Sheepstealer, which is what happened in the book. But oh well. No, it's gone. Either way, they perceive Sheepstealer as a dragon of the Greens. That's the bottom line. They believe that the dragon's working for the Greens, even though it destroyed some Triarchy ships. They didn't necessarily see that. Rhaenyra and Daemon aren't clear on all the details. It'll be interesting to see if some of it gets cleared up for them later, or if there's ever a chance for that. I'm guessing no, but maybe. So there's
even Baela or whoever else might be not clear. Yeah. She might not have seen him burn enemy ships, or could tell they were enemy ships, etc. She might have been too far away or facing her direction.
It's hard to tell with all the smoke and haze. Like, it's hard to tell what ship is what from that distance, and everybody was all scattered. So yeah, absolutely feasible. This is Daemon after being really crappy to Ulf and Hugh, and less crappy to Mazzari, but kind of crappy to her. He's great in this scene. He brings her back. He brings her back from the brink. He motivates her. He gives her a higher purpose. He brings up the prophecy. And it's not just manipulative, it's legitimate. Like, he believes it too. He does believe that not doing anything would be letting them die in vain. That is consistent with like a warrior mindset of the type of person he's been all along. So I think he's being a straight shooter here. I don't think he's being manipulative at all. I don't think any of this is for his own purposes, his own ambitions. And it works. It's also just really well done. When he starts speaking High Valyrian and whispering in your ear, that is just really effective. I was very moved by that.
I mostly agree with you, but I can't help be suspicious of Daemon. I felt like this scene was hearkening to the character in Lord of the Rings. It was whispering to the King of Gondor.
Wormtongue. Grima Wormtongue.
Wormtongue, thank you. Yeah, I kept wanting to say Silver Tongue. And he
Daemon
does it more.
Bloodworm Tongue.
Yeah, and he keeps doing it when she's about to kill Otto. He's like, "This is the moment. Everyone's looking. You got to, here's my sword." I don't think he's just being manipulative and just looking for his own power, but I think he's being a little manipulative and a little sick. Like I think it's hard to know. It's hard to know. But Alicent got to the point where she's like, "Forget it all. I just want to take my daughter and go get into the woods." You know what I mean? I don't care about this power anymore. He's really pushing Rhaenyra to be violent. The thing he wanted from Viserys, the thing that he is himself. He wants her to seize the throne and kill the opposers.
I would say, Sean, I think, yeah, he is being manipulative, but it's to manipulate her to save the world. He is a true believer now that this is just essential, and so he will back her for anything, but she needs to do what needs to be done to protect everything. So yeah, he's going to manipulate her, motivate her is probably what he would say, right?
I consider it motivating because I think manipulation is I would only use that term if it was something that he was trying to lead her to a goal that she doesn't want. If he's trying to lead her to something that to bring her onto a path that she's not, that has milestones that she's not expecting. Like he's trying to mislead her. He's not trying to mislead her. He's trying to get her to win. He's trying to do the things that he legitimately thinks equal victory. Whether or not you agree with the morality of those terms of victory, I think is maybe where some of those difficulties come up for you, Sean. And I agree with that because some of the things are that. But as Ashaya said,
also keep in mind the convenience that he gets to be the king now too.
Well, yes, but that wasn't his fault. Like he tried to win the throne before, but it wasn't like Viserys left the throne to her. And so he's just fighting for his own brother's will. Like, yes, he may want it too, but the other purpose is there. And I'm with Ashaya. I believe he's sincerely changed after that dream.
I generally do, but I also think that even having sincerely changed, he can still have bloodlust. He can still have, corrupt desire for power and can become corrupt after he gets it. It's
100%.
I generally speaking think he was being genuine, right, and trying to do quote unquote the right thing and get her to pull herself up for a moment and see it herself. But I also have suspicions and concerns about how all that might go.
Yeah, you're right to be suspicious.
Which I think were confirmed when he kept whispering in her ear, kill him, do it.
I'll quote someone in the chat who said, Troms 2007, who says, she needs to start acting like a king is what he's trying to explain to her. A king would have taken heads off like he was instructing her to do. I think there's two parts of this, the man who passes the sentence should swing the sword, but not always are kings doing that. Viserys wasn't doing that, not every king would do that. But Rhaenyra specifically said that's what Daemon wasn't there for her saying that, but she said she needs to cast off being a queen. She needs to be a king. With unknowingly, he is encouraging her to follow through on her vow to herself, right? He is encouraging something that she wanted. He's not just pulling something out of her that isn't there.
He's pushing her to do something she's afraid to do that she wants to do. She's afraid to move forward. She lacks the momentum to do the things she knows and has said many times she wants to do, and he's giving her that momentum. Yeah, I don't think he's whispering in her ear in the sense that it's whispering poison in her ear like a bitter steel or like a worm tongue. I think he's just reminding her of what she set out to do and how she has to get there and making it kind of simple.
Her fear, if you will, is knowing what she's going to have to do. She's going to have to take heads. And that's tough, a tough thing to really think about. Like, remember when she told Alicent, look, I have to cut your son's head. Look, are you going to be okay with it? And Alicent, kind of gives in to that reality. But they still weren't facing that reality
right.
yet. It's a legitimate thing to be afraid of having to do. And remember, too, that was a great scene when Viserys was talking to... might have been, I forgot who he was talking to, but he was questioning. He was like, what different man would I have been if I faced a greater challenge? And some people are thankful they didn't have to face. He's like, yeah, I know, I get it. Maybe I'm better off to have lived in peace. But Rhaenyra doesn't have, whether that was good or bad, the scenario, the luxury or whatever of Viserys' reign of peace. She's in a situation where for herself and her family to not be killed, they are going to have to kill some other people and their family. And that's a legitimate thing to be afraid of, but having to do that and the repercussions of it and on and on.
I would say, as much as, it feels dark for Daemon to push her into this, it is I think good for a ruler to have this experience, to feel the weight of. Probably Rhaenyra had a lot of hatred for Otto, but probably also had some memories of him as like a family member, extended family, and it was a little bit more loaded.
He's her best friend's father.
Yeah, exactly.
At one
point. Not even mentioning that part of it. So it's very loaded for her specifically, but I just think, I think we'd be better off if every one of our rulers had to actually kill one of the people in one of the wars that they were saying that we should start, right?
Yeah, and to your point, to start a war.
Yes.
To your point, Sean, if she can't kill Otto, like the top 2 or 3 perpetrator of this whole thing, like then that's Tiff. Like if she can't cut Kristen Cole's head off, Aegon's head off, or Otto's head off, then she does need to maybe quote unquote toughen up a little bit or something.
And to Daemon's credit, he was correct in many ways. She needed to do. He can't do it, right? If he does it for her, then people will perceive him as the real king. She's weak, but he's really in charge, on and on.
That's a good point, yeah.
It was important for him to turn that over to her.
He was steering it towards her being the center. Yeah, you're right. Like, you're right. If he did it himself.
He wanted to do it himself, too.
Otto wanted him to do it.
He wanted to do it, yeah. Daemon, yeah.
Yeah, you're both right, yeah. So, it's the talk of Vhagar that gets Rhaenyra going in the end, and this is a good time for us to transition to talking about the other end of it, the King's Landing side of it. Alicent sees Vhagar leaving. We had seen the shot in advance, and she immediately gets to work, as Ironrod says, very busily going from place to place, hoping for a peaceful transfer of power. This is also a thing that we just don't have a book version. Like you said, in the book, Aemond takes Harrenhal and kills a bunch of Strongs. And it's like, well, what does that look like? Same thing here. There's very little explanation. It's just, the Luthor Largent and the Gold Cloaks flipped and they came in peacefully and took power. There wasn't a whole lot of there's no description of fighting, and there's no description of what happens in the throne room. Or
didn't we know that Daemon had sent word ahead?
I don't think so.
The book? Okay.
I don't think so.
I thought we did. I think
it was speculated on, but you might be right about that. But either way, just the sight of Caraxes overhead was enough to turn them. We always assumed there might have been more, that maybe he did send word ahead. Someone can look that up in the meantime. But either way, there's not much to say about the actual taking. It's more about the aftermath and the heads that are taken. Certainly the description of people getting executed and her ascending the throne. That's in there, although there's some significant differences in how it's described. The bottom lines are very similar in terms of who lives, who dies, and the general scenario after it. So Alicent goes to the Gold Cloaks barracks earlier in the episode. Very unorthodox, very against protocol. Queen Dowager just by herself showing up in like the locker room,
So many nude men.
Yeah, but this is why she didn't bring any guards with her, and why it eventually got noticed. She was being too clever, almost. Like she's like, well, no one's going to see me, but everyone's going to see you, like, at the same time. So there is that. Like,
I don't know about too clever. I would say this was probably the dumbest thing she did. I would think. I mean, I guess she's no one she can trust.
But
there's no one she could send for her. She has to do it. I just think like wait outside until he leaves and then catch him there instead of walking straight into the locker room.
Time was very much of the essence too, though. I suppose she didn't know Rhaenyra could show up at any minute. Like as far as she knows, like she doesn't have until midnight or whatever. So I kind of get that point. But you're right. It is. But that's the point. Like, this is what we were saying earlier. Like, Alicent has to take all these chances, and they're awkward, but it's the only path forward she has, or at least maybe quibbling about certain details, but allowing a peaceful transfer of power and escaping, that bottom line is what she's after. And to create a peaceful transfer of power, she goes to the only real body of soldiers in the city, which is the Gold Cloaks. And I mean, that's what we saw in Game of Thrones season 1 in order to facilitate the takeover by the Lannisters. The Littlefinger tricks Ned into thinking the Gold Cloaks are on his side, but he's actually won them for Cersei and the Lannisters. So this is a great little exchange, very efficient, like so many other episodes. Some would call that treason. Some would. The question is, would you? The second he says some would call that treason, he's signaling a willingness to play ball, or at least a willingness to hear, because like, he's already taking a neutral stance here. He's not like, oh, that's treason. He didn't say that's treason. He said some would, because she already knows they're on the right wavelength here. I also appreciate that Sir Luthor's garb is book canon accurate. Officers of the Gold Cloaks do wear black breastplates chased in gold, unlike how, for example, TV Janos Slynt didn't wear any black whatsoever until he went to the wall where he wore all black. Even the art from the Game of Thrones collectible card game, has Janos Slynt in black armor chased with gold. So, yeah. That is the look. They nailed the look for Sir Luthor. He's also supposed to be really big. In the book, he's like 7 feet tall, but you can forgive them for the shortage of 7 foot tall actors walking around available. Trey Mackey sends a super chat, says, I'm very happy you guys exist. Well, thank you for saying so. We really appreciate that. We're glad you all are here going through this fun experience of season 3, this great start to the season that we hope continues. Let's talk about the queens a bit more. We talked about the sort of social side of it. Let's talk about the actual logistics here and what they do to facilitate the transfer of power. Alicent brings Helaena. She balks, but she's like, you're a queen. She says, you are the queen. And I love how Helaena they have her be really good at emotional intelligence with very little IQ, no guile, but lots of emotional intelligence, maybe in some IQ, like her science stuff is pretty intelligent in some ways. Maybe I'm using the wrong terms. Definitely lack of guile. She definitely has no guile.
Yeah, no guile. She doesn't have as many social graces, and all that.
But she does have some cleverness, yeah.
Yeah.
And she's recognized, she's very perceptive. She's like, you've spoken with her. You're afraid. She's these instant observations about her mother and other people that are completely right.
Yeah, she's blunt. She's blunt and honest to a fault, perhaps. I would also like to point out this episode had a lot of overhead shots that I really loved. You can see here even this shot of them up on the battlements. There's one from above. There's the one when Rhaenyra and Daemon take the throne. There's the one, I think, what was there? One with when Bela arrives. I think there's at least one or two other like really striking above shots.
Now, the guards on the wall know something is up. By the way, great call, Matashay. I agree. There were a lot of great overhead shots. They know something's up, but this is kind of like the thing with the dragon seeds, but in an inversion of, like, these guys aren't supposed to think, but they're being asked to think, right? Aemond's like, no, fire on any dragons that aren't Vhagar. That's our order. That's simple. That's easy enough to do, right? Well, not necessarily, but this is even easier.
Even that, if I can interject real quick, what if they're faced with a scenario of a dragon flying overhead they're supposed to shoot at, and ladders scaling a wall? Should we fight off the soldiers that are about to disrupt our ability to fire, or should we, you know what I mean? There's still, what if there's 3 dragons? Should we focus on one? Should we focus on the north? Or there are still moments they're going to have to think. There's still going to be contingencies to account for, and Aemond just saying, shoot at any dragon, like.
Yeah.
Any dragon? What about one of our own dragon? There's still moments where they're going to have to make some decisions, and they need better instructions.
Yeah, so they don't have it, and this gets simple for them, actually. And Alicent makes it simple for them. She says, look, it's legal doublespeak what she's saying. What her authority here is, what she's saying is a bit sketchy, but this is a legal gray area for the master of laws, or people who actually know the laws. This is not, even if you're expecting a soldier to think, it's not about these sort of things like the chain of command when 2 different conflicting authorities are coming up. Like, that's not for him to decide, but he has to. He has to decide because he's got no other choice. But it's an easy call. The authority that's there in front of him is the one that's telling him to not die. So yeah. It's a very easy choice. He's like, dude, you can listen to me and you have a good excuse. 2 queens gave you this order. Or you can burn. Like, it's that simple. And he's like, yeah, it is that simple. So when the dragons show up, they walk off. And all his men are like, yep, I do not disagree with this decision. I don't want to burn. I see 4 dragons coming at us. Yeah, I mean, that's easy, right? These are not and again, these are not ideologically endowed soldiers. They're not like, greens are death, we must have, they don't care. They would rather just it all be over. Again, they would rather the High Lords stop this Game of Thrones business so they don't get burned to death, Very few of them are ideological.
This is the exact field that George likes to harvest too, this torn loyalties. What if the the king says, "Don't let the prince leave," and a prince says, "Get my horse ready." What's the stableman supposed to do? You know what I mean?
Good point. Yep. And that's why, a little bit later when the invasion begins, why there's so few guys who actually attack Daemon and Rhaenyra, because most of them, only the hardcore loyalists are going to keep going. And even at the end, some of the hardcore loyalists are like, yeah, even this is, we're beat, man. This is it. Like, there's no point in fighting. Our only chance to survive is to give up. They're not willing to die for nothing or just to make a statement. And that's reasonable. That's how most human beings are.
And give credit to other efforts that Rhaenyra and maybe Mysaria have taken. The city's been blockaded. They don't have food. Aemond has not been a good leader. The boy, remember, Helena even makes that point. She's like, her sons have always been nice. Yeah, Aegon and Aemond have not been nice. We've been starving. We've been locked in. And the guards, it's not like the guards are immune to all this. Them and their families are locked in and have less food. You know what I mean? They're all, and Rhaenyra says, like, I'm here to make things right. But probably most people are like, yep, sure enough, come on. Yeah, this isn't, like you said, it's not a tough decision.
It's above their pay grade. They're like, yep, okay, right. Then.
Yeah, it's a tough decision for a Kingsguard knight, right?
Yes.
It's there are a few people it's a tough decision for, but not the masses, not the average private soldier on the street.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So let's talk about Iron Rod briefly. Definitely my least favorite scene, not just because it's an unpleasant thing to watch. I just don't buy that this would be his reaction to discovering Alicent's plotting. I think he's the master of laws, and this is what he's going to do. Now, I think the way they tried to sell it is that, well, he doesn't think he can run away, and he has this line about, well, he sees her as a traitor and wants to give her the most heinous punishment possible. And I guess in his mind, that's what he's doing. And since he's the master of laws, it's his role to do that. But I'm just not really buying it. It also wasn't quick or efficient like a lot of the other scenes in this episode. It just didn't it didn't meet the bar that this episode set, I think.
Yeah.
And it's not like this was set up. This kind of came out of nowhere in terms of Iron Rod too. Like where did he show this sort of disposition? Like she threatened him in a council meeting once back in season 1, but like that's about it, like it's just not a pragmatic response.
Yeah, I did not like this scene at all for several reasons. Like you say, I didn't feel like it was set up. I didn't see this happening in his character. It didn't feel necessary. It would have been enough for him to confront her about, treasonous actions, and she seems like she's gathering up valuables. He could have tried to seize her or take the bag from her, maybe they needed to have him get arrested by Orwell, and it needed to be, but I feel like him grabbing her, if he just had his arms on her in a bag or maybe thrown her to the ground and Orwell comes in, that it didn't have to get to sexual assault level. I think it didn't. I mean, it's tough to watch. That's just a tough thing to watch. Why are you putting this on screen? And I feel like it needs to really be necessary to put that on screen.
I agree.
It wasn't necessary.
It also just didn't really make any sense the way they burst in. Like what the Maester and like everybody, right. All those guards and Orwell all heard it at the same time, and they came in and so orderly. Like it just didn't.
And for Jasper to not lock the door, to not try to.
All he did was close it. He didn't lock it. Yeah, you're right.
I just was
it's sloppy.
I would argue that there didn't need to be hints that was in his nature, because that's the kind of the point, is that people don't let on that that's their nature, and his name's Iron Rod, and he's just been a dick. But I would say I don't think it was necessary for Alicent to be further assaulted, further traumatized, all of that. I think the reason was to show was that even when she has her most agency, when she's able to make the most change, she's still preyed on by the men around her and still accused of being this manipulator and this person that she's not. She's just been, she's just been the tool.
Aemond and Aegon have been, and he doesn't do anything like that to them. It's still it is pretty gendered. Obviously, it's very gendered.
So I think it's to emphasize that the gendered prejudice against her that she'll keep facing from people later. Again, I think he could have just made those remarks to her, laid hands on her, and I don't think it needed to be as gratuitous as it was. I feel like there's a lot of people who, if I were to tell them, you got to catch up on House of the Dragon, I would be less likely to. Yeah. There's multiple people who I'm not as motivated to tell to watch this episode.
It just doesn't seem to be a point. Why do we need him in the Black Cells anyway? Just to transition to Alaris, but they were going to go down to the Black Cells anyway to let the other prisoners out, to let the other lords and ladies out. And he's the small council of the Greens. He's going to be executed no matter what. The sexual assault charge isn't why he's executed. He's a leader of the
It
Greens.
was
That's
to
why
give
he was killed.
Orwell some leverage. It was to give him some reason that they're not also executing him.
I would have preferred that Alicent and Orwell concocted a thing to pin on on him to put him in prison or something like that, to make him look like a conspirator, like flip it. Maybe the thing that Alicent was doing, she made other people think that Ironron did it or something like that. I don't know. Either we don't have to sit here and come up with alternative ideas because we're all pretty clear that they could have done something differently here. Anyway, let's move on. Preparing to launch. This is the right before the attack begins, the 4 dragons launching. Some of this we've already talked about in terms of, specifically, we talked about the reaction of Gerardis and Celtigar, who are basically the 2 counselors of note now, Maester Gerardis and Lord Bartimos Celtigar. But as they walk to their dragons, Mysaria appears, gives Rhaenyra the crown, is like, you're going to need this, you know, I hope you send for me. Remember which of us has been faithful. And Daemon smirks at her like, yeah, nice try. But then he brings it up. Like, as soon as they're out of Mysaria's earshot, he's like, so she's pretty close to you these days, huh? And she's like, I don't need your permission. He's like, it was just an observation. It was not just an observation. He was definitely trying to, like, feel that out a little bit, because Mysaria did needle him earlier and he's still thinking about it. This is also when she announces that Sir Laurent should be killed after all. Just allow him to choose the method of his execution. It's kind of like she's tying up some loose ends as she heads out the door. And this is also when Daemon is rude again to the siege. You can tell Ulf is really scared. He's lets out a breath when Daemon walks away, like he was holding his breath the whole time. And he says, and after we take the city, it's time to go fight Vhagar, which now Ulf knows he's not going to get a castle for doing. The actual... go ahead, Sean. Yeah.
Can I say another thing that just kind of my mind caught? Daemon's, concern or suspicion about Mysaria. Think about his relationship with Viserys. He was upset that Viserys never made him hand. He saw how Otto and other people, I don't know if I necessarily want to use the word manipulate often carries a negative connotation. We talked about this earlier. This isn't always necessarily negative. You know, you can manipulate a wine opener to open, it usually has a negative connotation mixed in with it, which Daemon would perceive. He doesn't like Otto. He didn't like how his brother's behaving. And so he blamed the people around him and their advice. He wanted his brother to follow his advice. He sees Mysaria as another person like that. Mysaria is someone that Rhaenyra will listen to and might manipulate her. And I want to be the one manipulating her, not someone else.
Yeah, that's his privilege. He's a Targaryen. He's her blood. He's a dragon rider. Yeah, he doesn't like that. You're right. For a lot of reasons. It's a really incredible series of shots after they take off and fly towards King's Landing. These have been in a lot of the trailers for good reason. They're so very cinematic, so really cool. Just the different shots of Syrax at first flying solo, and then the 4 of them flying over the battle. I thought this was shot from the battle, but it's just leftover wreckage.
In this one, you see very clearly Caraxes' long neck.
Oh, yeah. Good point. I did not catch that before. Otherwise, I would have realized this is not the 4 dragons I thought it was. You're right. The one that's farthest away is very clearly Caraxes. Now we get some shots of King's Landing and some quick shots of people we know. There's Kat. Hugh's wife is seen looking like she's about to leave the city because she's got some cloak on and like a pack. We also see Sylvie, Aemond's older lover, and Muja, Ulf's drinking buddy. Who was the guy who was also in Our Flag Means Death. There they are. And the other friend.
Olawande. Love him in Our Flag Means Death. I hope to very soon see Ulf interact with his old drinking partners, because it looks like Kat's leaving and Hugh is not going to immediately interact with Kat.
Yeah, so I wonder, maybe those guys will show up. Maybe Ulf will go looking for them. Yeah, there's Sylvie right there.
Interesting to see her. I don't know that I think we're going to see her again this season. I think perhaps they just, she's one of the few common-born people in the city that we know.
Yeah.
Do you think we'll see her again?
The perspective of the common-born.
Yeah, do you guys think we'll see her again?
Too,
okay.
I think we will. But
maybe in the Ulf scenes at the pub or something, I'm like, whose plot line would intersect with her is my point. Mysaria when she comes back, perhaps her and Sylvie talking. That's my
Maybe.
guess.
That's
Actually,
a
maybe
good call.
Mysaria and
That's a
Sylvie.
good call.
Yeah,
That's a very good call.
That's what I hope for.
She would need to reconnect with what's going on in the city. She's been gone. She's like, what's been happening? Give me the word. What's the word? She would have to go kind of spread her whispers back out,
Of course,
you know?
if you remember last season, I was theorizing about this as well, just because of, Mysaria being involved in being a madam or whatever.
So most of the guards surrender. This makes sense. Alicent did a good job, and they just don't want to die for a purpose they don't super hard believe in. Neither side is inspiring this kind of loyalty for the most part, so that's all very sensible. Daemon cuts his way through a few guards, but these not very many, because only a few of them are diehards, like we said. Not that many of them are willing to give their life for this, especially given it looks bad in terms of their chances. Like Aemond, Daemon is supposed to be able to cut his way through a lot. Even more so, he's a lot more experienced. His sword is literally supernaturally sharp. His foes don't have 1/3 the quality or coverage of his armor or training, or just contempt for the opponent, which gives you a certain level of confidence. Obviously, too much contempt gets you stabbed near your kidney like Aemond, but it also helps your confidence. So the disorganized,
a lot of the best and most experienced soldiers might be gone too.
Oh yeah,
right?
they're
stripped into the army. They left with Cole, and
yeah, you're right. You don't leave your best dudes on guard duty behind when there's wars to be won. That's a very good point. So that's, and those few guards who did fight. Well, some more of them might have fought had they not seen so many of their fellows lay down their arms without a fight. They're like, well, if we're all giving up, then that's just a morale killer. And again, to repeat, we just don't have detail on this section in the book either. So what they do to fill it out is, well, it's their sandbox to play with. There's no source material really to work with here.
Similar to Harren Hall, there would have been disarray. Like a bunch of dragons just landed, right? You would
They
have
weren't ready for that.
different leaders might be giving different orders or not giving any orders. You know what I mean? Like, what are we supposed to do? I don't know. Just stay here. Just wait till someone it is reasonable to me that there wasn't an organized front to meet Daemon. And even that's not quite true. There was one. It happened kind of at the last moment, led by a Kingsguard, which makes sense that a Kingsguard would have the loyalty and get the most loyal people, and
he would know who to talk to.
Place he knew Daemon is heading, and
yes, all true. So, a small important detail here: the filming of the scene too, the way they walk through the halls together, is something a lot of people noted as like they walk in unison. They walk kind of as a unit, which I think is pretty cool technique. And she is carrying Jace's sword. Small detail. I kind of wish they had pointed that out. Maybe she'll point it out later, but it seemed kind of meaningful that she had Jace at her side the whole time and didn't ever get pointed out. You just have to kind of notice that or watch the behind the scenes. They pointed out in the behind the scenes.
You just got to notice how she holds the sword, just like how Jace did. The sword calls to the hand to be held right there when you wear it.
Sword has a personality.
I also you see that there's like a moment where Daemon and Rhaenyra hold hands, like their hands glance each other here. It's not a long moment, but they do in that moment kind of have a, here we go.
Yeah, the true test is within, he said, and that was right. He's like, because at first Rhaenyra was like, wow, yeah, it's Alicent really did what she said. And he's like, well, don't be so sure just yet, which is correct, I think. A major line from the trailers comes up after they take the throne room. She won't ascend until Aegon's head rolls. She needs to walk through that blood, right? She's not necessarily literally thinking of walking through blood, but she knows that to take the throne, to take the crown, Aegon must die. So she says, bring Aegon, the usurper, to me. But he's not there. She expected him to be there because of the whole bedridden thing and Alicent's promise, which everything else Alicent said was going to be true was. So it looked like, probably from Rhaenyra's point of view, that the rest would be as well. And we know from our point of view that Alicent really did try her earnest best there. Orwell,
Can I say real quick?
Yeah.
I thought that might, in the moment, I thought it was going to be, and even reflecting, I thought it maybe should have been the end of the episode, that moment when she's like, bring Aegon to me. I thought, boom, it was going to go black screen, roll credits. And I thought this 2 more times before the episode actually ended.
That's funny.
Which I want to give them credit to building up great climactic, iconic moments.
Yeah. So Orwell, kind of brave. He's basically well, this is my best chance. They might just kill me, but I got to do this. I got to face this bravely and honestly and play it right. And this is very similar language used to Simon Strong, who says, surely there's some other way you can find satisfaction. Apparently not. But Orwell's like, I have another head for you if that would bring you satisfaction, and he offers up Iron Rod, which of course, that's a preferable for Daemon to kill the Lord of Stone Dance. Not Stone Dance, sorry. Sharp Point. Wait. Stone Dance, Sharp Point. Massey's Hook. Wait, yeah, he's the Lord of... He's Jasper Wild, yeah. Anyway.
Also,
it would have been...
did anyone else, like, when you watch this, you hear, even though you knew he had just kind of gotten Iron Rod, I still exclaimed, Otto! And so it kind of just, like, led me for the wrong reasons.
To the right place.
To the right place.
That's funny.
To me, I thought that Jasper would have been a better target for Daemon for a couple reasons. One, Orwell's sworn more to the throne than Aegon or Rhaenyra or whoever. Like,
he's a lord.
I'm going to serve whoever's the king, right? That's just the role of maesters. A. B. Orwell is on his knees pledging fealty to her, and he knew Jasper wouldn't. Jasper's like, oh, she's a traitor. She's a good. He knew that Jasper would say the things that would make Daemon happy to behead him for. So, and that's aside from the whole scene we talked about why we didn't like. So I think that was makes me extra not like that scene.
Yeah, it just didn't seem necessary. The Black Cells, yeah. So Daemon finds Iron Rod waiting for him and a number of lords and ladies who refuse to bend the knee to Aegon. They would, you think, have earned a reward. Certainly they get some thanks at first, but before the rewards get dealt out, before Rhaenyra's even taken the throne, there's some thank you for that, all kind of standard. Free your friends, punish your enemies. It's all, very much what we would expect. But sometimes your enemies give you a gift. And like Daemon said about the prophecy, if it's true, what would you do then? Yeah, what do you do when Larry Strong, your enemy, gives you Otto Hightower? I don't know what you do. I don't think you look at him as a friend all of a sudden, but it does make you ponder a bit what options you might have in terms of maybe Larys would work with you to bring Aegon back. Like maybe he's going to play that game. But of course, Otto Hightower is just a wonderful gift for Daemon Targaryen of all people. He laughs. That's what I said. I think only the second time we ever see him laugh. The other time is when he laughs at Aemond Velaryon's speech during Laena's funeral because Aemond is being a jerk and mocking Luke and Jace, and Daemon, by laughing out loud, draws the attention to himself instead. So that was a strategic laugh, at which point being, like, Daemon almost never laughs. And in here, it's also not just humor. It's irony, it's sarcasm, it's cruelty.
He was close to laughing during the fish feed song. Like, he was grinning and like, singing with a joyful tone. And, like, you look at the pictures and he has a big old smile. But, yeah, that's about the only other close moment.
Can I say, Ashaya, or to a point you made, Ashaya, when that guard was like, hey, I've got a gift for you from Laura Strong. I was in that moment, I was like, that Otto. That's when I knew it was Otto right there. And I also thought that should have been the end of the episode. I thought it was going to go to a blank screen and we'd be left wondering who that was, and it revealed that, I think it would have been a fine ending there. But I can't remember if I said it on the stream last week, but I was definitely talking to Rita about the idea that, we know from just a one quick clip at the end of last season that Otto's being held prisoner. And that clip in context was with a bunch of other people on the move. And I had it in my mind that Otto was like in a carriage, he's being captured, he's being taken somewhere. And it wasn't until right at that moment when that guard said that I considered he would just be in that dungeon all along. I was telling Rita, I thought that that might have been some piece of Larys's move to take Aegon out of there. He might be trying to manage some kind of trade. I don't know who. The thing is, Larys is a master of whispers, and you can't capture the freaking hand of the king and father of the queen, and no one knows. Someone's got to know, and if anyone's going to find out, it's the master of whispers. I feel like it was a lot of clues were there. I feel like I should have figured this out and didn't till the last second. They handled it really
right there.
Well. Yeah.
So here's a small detail that's easy to forget. Now, what Larys doesn't know is that Simon Strong accused Larys of murdering Harwin and Lionel to Daemon. He brought out, like, a fire here? You see how humid it is? That's crazy, man. And it was a good point. So I wonder if that will matter at all. Certainly, I don't expect Larys to like win Daemon and Rhaenyra over, but it might be even harder for him than he thinks.
Laurie's playing both sides and telling everyone he's playing both sides.
I'm playing both sides. I will swear a blood oath.
Yeah. Well, that's my other thought is that where does Myzaria's revenge get pointed to with Otto killed at the point she arrives here? Laurie's. If Laurie's intersects with it, she does have something to target, and also maybe her jealousy of Alicent. I'm just in my head. I'm like, where does she focus this revenge?
Do you remember, by the way, that the book version of the Greens, they do slash their palms? And Larys is the one who suggested. Yeah. I'm playing both sides. No. So Otto, I love Otto. It's the same Otto. Like, he pops out of prison like the same guy he was, just tired. He's so arrogant. He's like, oh, everybody else must be dead. They couldn't possibly have done this without me. And he's not wrong entirely that their leadership has been terrible. Like, they're sloppy, vindictive, self-defeating. He saw it before, like, he was fired. And Kristen Cole was put in his place. He's like, oh my God, this is so dumb. And he doesn't even know Alicent is basically working for the other side. He doesn't even know she's alive. No one corrects his assumption. No one's like, actually, most of them are alive, bro. Aemon's alive. Aegon's. He might have heard her saying that Aegon's alive. Heard them talking about that because, you know, you don't have Aegon, so we got to kill you. And he knows that he doesn't see Aegon's head anywhere. So he can, in those 5 minutes he had, he might have figured out that actually quite a few of them might be alive.
I don't think he did, and I think that's like the best revenge they could have had on him. Not his death, but him going to his death thinking that he's completely failed and everyone in his family has been killed.
Yeah, that's true.
Alicent's dead. Like, he just doesn't know, and that's you know, more powerful than just his death.
He doesn't know Prince Daeron and Caesarion, or with Ormond, his uncle, his nephew with that huge army. He doesn't know about Hugh and Ulf. He doesn't know about Adam. He doesn't know about the Battle of the Gullet. He doesn't know about anything. He is more Jon Snow than Jon Snow ever was. And he tries to say he did his best, and I think he sincerely believes that. No regret, no apology, no like I did something, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Just bitterness and resignation. That's Otto. though. That's how he's been. Otto went out the way he came in.
Certain things about him I liked, certain decisions or attributes I want to appreciate, but I just wish all the effort that he put into making sure everyone accepted Aegon as king, he put that effort into making sure everyone accepted Rhaenyra was
too
queen.
bad. Yep, you're right.
Like I at one point I had the thought, I think he genuinely, had Viserys's best intentions in mind. Like, no, maybe mostly, but not Rhaenyra. He did not have an intention to make Rhaenyra queen, and he could have. He could have prepped her better. He could have coached Viserys into prepping her better. He could have sent, but the people that, like, when he's like, the realm won't accept it. All right, which people in the realm do you think won't accept it? Work on them.
And it's him that first suggests it, Sean.
Yeah. What's that?
It's him that first suggests this when he's so like trying to get Daemon out of the way. It's him that even first pushes for it.
And Viserys looks at him like he's crazy. He's like, "Are you kidding? Are you crazy?" He's like, "My 10-year-old daughter."
Head. Yeah. So Otto really is so to blame.
Yeah. So. This is one of the few things that maybe didn't work out better, given the wait. Like, we weren't supposed to have a 2-year wait to find out what happened to Otto. It was supposed to be just like a couple of episodes and then he's gone. And that would have been more of like a more fitting exit for a character who was so important for so long. Instead, it was kind of his end was sort of delayed and then it was so brief. You know what I mean? So like that, I found myself wishing Otto had done more, and all of our talks throughout the preseason, I was kind of expecting maybe he would come back and do things. So I was disappointed in that. Not that I think it's bad writing. I don't think that they made a bad decision. I was just hoping to get more of him. But this is not unlike how he goes in the book. There's no capture or anything. He's just there when the city is taken. So it's a little simpler.
I think last season was for the worst for these 2 episodes being moved to this season. Yeah. And I think this season is going to be for the worst for these 2 episodes being in the season, because I think it takes up time that I want the rest of season 3 to have to breathe. And it just feels like, okay, now season 2's over. Let's move on to season 3. It's kind of I don't know, but I don't know that they had any real choice here.
I don't either. Yeah, I don't see what else they could have done. They just have to trim from the end rather than what they had already written,
I wonder, I worry that some of the actiony start might make people excited at first, it's possible we lose viewers because they were disappointed with the last ending. I hope not, but it might cause people to be disappointed with how it progresses. If we move into more character drama and plot development and nuance without the action,
I wouldn't worry about that.
Where's the action now?
I wouldn't worry about that, Sean. There's going to be a lot of action.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that. This is that point of the story where there's just going to be just lots of action. Yeah. Jillsville says, rough week for Rhys Ifans fans. Apparently his character in Star City had something happen too.
Star City is the For All Mankind spin-off. And I will say I loved For All Mankind.
Nice.
Haven't quite started Star City yet. It was, I don't know, it just looked kind of dim.
I didn't know you had seen For All Mankind.
I watched it all.
I haven't finished the most current season, but I do generally love it. After the second or third episode, I was fully sold.
Yeah, I would say it has a peak, and then the most recent season was lower for me, but it picked itself up, and I'm excited for the last season. I highly recommend it to any fan of science fiction, alternate history, the idea of NASA. Yeah, it was really good. I was recommended it over and over as an Expanse fan because there's some real resonances in it. So yeah, definitely check it out, and we'll have to talk about it sometime, Sean. I binged it. Like, I tore through it.
Yeah, I didn't know Star City was a spinoff of that either.
Yes,
so
yeah, with Rhys in it.
The next section is called Blood and Ascension, and it's our final section. Obviously, you think you can understand what I mean by that. We talked about how Rhaenyra went through the blood and how the blood was spilled and how she walked through it to get to the throne. There's some surprise and somber fanfare to Otto being let in, and yeah, she's unable to execute Aegon, so they have to do the next best thing. Pretty similar to the book, as I said. Otto and Ironrod are executed in the book version. Helena and Alicent are kept as captives. Orwyle is allowed to live, but isn't trusted so much. We'll see if that part carries over. That I can't be as sure about. Otto's execution, like you said, Sean, it should have been messy as it was. And if it wasn't for her getting to wield Dark Sister, it probably would have been even messier, because the sharpness of that blade absolutely helped her in a way that, well, she really needed it, because this is not a person that has swung a sword at a person probably ever before. So it's also a nice nice symbolization of the war itself. The whole thing is just a big, bloody, self-destructive mess. It's fun for us, but yeah. So it's like Ironrod's death is almost an afterthought by comparison, but it is more blood for the throne. In the book, he was complaining about how only men should inherit by law, right, when he's killed, which I kind of wish they had still had him do that, just because it's small, but it's a good example of why change that. Like, that's a perfectly fine thing from the book. Why not just keep that? Anyway, she's not wearing her crown when she climbs the throne, which is interesting. When we know she has it with her, because Mysaria made sure to hand it off to her on her way. So that's presumably coming. We've certainly seen trailer shots of her wearing the crown, but I think she has, like... It feels weighty to her. It's her father's crown, and the way she approached the throne, the crown as well is a difficult symbol for her to accept, and that could come with some psychic burden of a sort. The episode bookends with blood as it began in fire, as I said. I love that that they did that, and it was meant to be the end of a season, so it still functions pretty well as an episode 2. And it doesn't, like you said, Sean, the episode just like, you think it's over, and then one more thing happens, and this one more thing after several other one more things is Helena and Alicent being brought back in.
Yeah, that was the third moment. Then I thought, okay, that's the end. Nope, but I thought it would have been a perfect ending. Her just sitting there on a throne, barely composed, fighting back tears, absorbing everything that had happened, what she had done, what's expected of her now. I think it would have been a fine ending. And now, each time I thought it would have been a fine ending, I'm not upset with what came next, because it all made sense and flowed and was good too. But I mean that as a credit to the show to have had 3 great endings in one episode.
She's supposed to feel triumphant here, but she just feels not just the high cost she paid to get to this point, all those losses that we talked about before, and all the suffering of people that she doesn't even know that she has to assume that happened. The weight of prophecy, the weight of now her responsibilities. It's just so much. It's too much. It's hard to feel like, yay, I win. There's no way she's going to feel like triumphant. She's going to feel, oh God, this is just beginning. This is, was just step 1. There's so much more to do here. And there's perhaps never been an actor in all of the Game of Thrones TV universe that can portray such a wide range of emotions all at once. Now, I said we saw so many facets of Daemon throughout the episode. Rhaenyra does all that here in one moment. There's a whole bunch of facets of emotions flashing across their face all at once. It all in one moment rather than across the whole episode. So that is very impressive. And whether Rhaenyra, the character, can keep the crown is another matter, but Emma has earned a crown that will never be taken away. Any final thoughts from y'all? I definitely, after talking about the episode all the way through, I'm even more affirmed in my love for it and feeling that it is definitely one of the greats. And I'm sure we'll notice some other things down the line, some other cool connective tissue, maybe things that we look back on after seeing more episodes that make it seem even better.
Yeah, I've said pretty much everything I had in my notes. There was another thought. This is, again, a little bit of a tangent, but and maybe a little nitpick I want to make, but I want to counter my own nitpick, that there are a few moments like, Aemond taking Harrenhal and a little bit of Daemon coming through, hacking people down, that I feel, and even there was a moment when he was like, walking across the courtyard with like, I don't know, a couple dozen gold cloaks following him. I remember for a moment thinking like, wouldn't those guys just be sent off in a bunch of different directions looking for Aegon, making sure certain areas were under control? Like, why does Daemon have 20 guys following around? Like at 4, 5, 7, it felt a little staged sometimes. But I remind myself that I had this idea when I was younger, when I would watch older movies, Casablanca, movies that are considered great. So I would watch them and I'd be kind of disappointed. I would feel like they were kind of staged. I feel like it's almost like they're just filming a play. And then as I matured, I thought, well, you know what? People don't rag on Shakespeare. Plays are good. Plays are what many movies are based on, and with a primary source of entertainment for centuries. It's like filming a play doesn't mean, if a play is good and you film it, that I don't think it makes it a bad movie. Yeah. Maybe you're missing aspects of the capability of filmmaking, but it doesn't make it not good. And I watched Casablanca again with that eye years later and had a much greater appreciation for it. And I felt that way several times in this episode. Like, I know a lot of times something that makes me really like a movie or TV show is when we see the minutia of something that we kind of take for granted. They show on screen 1,000 times, just the cowboy jumps on his horse and rides off. But then I'm forgiven when Clint Eastwood has a hard time getting on his horse. I appreciate that little moment of realism. It buys me more into the world and the character. But I also appreciate the elegant storytelling. We need to see Daemon has his forces. He's hunting down Aegon. Aemond has his dragon. He takes Harrenhal. And some of these slightly staged moments, one, they present the concept perfectly in a matter of seconds. It's very good filmmaking.
A realistic version would take a lot longer, right?
Right.
And that's not great.
And it sometimes Game of Thrones or House of Dragon or whatever, they do include some of that realistic minutia, like when Rhaenyra tries to chop off Otto's head and hits the shoulder instead. That is realistic, and they did take a moment of that. It had meaning. It was worth it for that. It doesn't really matter to show Aemon or Daemon go rattling off orders to send guards in a bunch of different directions, whatever. All the
you can assume that stuff, yeah.
And that it's getting across, staged as it may seem, it's showing us what we need to see. And also when I remind myself that this whole story is being presented as a story. It's from, like George wrote this, from unreliable narrators. It could not have seen everything that happened. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so it's going to be told as a story, and the story would be the whole Gold Cloak army followed Daemon as he hunted. So little things I want to nitpick at, I still can also find great appreciation.
And it's also hard to say, like, well, what would be a realistic version of that? Like, we don't know. You know what I mean? Like, how many men should he have had with him? Like, there is no answer to that. So it's like, well, we can only take these nitpicks so far. If we should, and sometimes it's not even worth making them, because it's like, well, I'm not sure if it is realistic or not. It doesn't feel that way, but we don't know. Nobody to this day actually knows what medieval style combat, how it really works. Like the nitty gritty of it. There's no film footage of it, and it's throw in dragons and supernatural swords, and it gets all the harder to portray in a way that we have to. So it's like you say, just don't make those the main parts of the story. Those are just the way to help facilitate the story, and that works really well. So yeah, well said, Sean. We'll see a lot of you for the preview stream on Friday. I'm sure we'll have a lot to say there as well. We'll try to keep it tight because we want those preview episodes to be on the shorter end, so you have time to listen to them before the next episode. But again, a lot happened in this one, and it sets things off in a lot of directions. So we'll include some book discussion, maybe a little more than usual. Have some good times with that. Friday at 5 o'clock, y'all. I didn't mention these episodes specifically, but if you want to stay immersed in the Dance of the Dragons realm, our Radio Westeros pairing, we did 9 episodes with them, 7 about the actual Dance of the Dragons, 2 about the Lannisters and the Greyjoys side war that was going, which was kind of neat when Corley says, when the triarchy arrives, he goes, is it the Lannisters or the Greyjoys? And it's like, it's a triarchy. And the Lannisters and the Greyjoys in the Dance of the Dragons were kind of busy fighting each other. Mostly the Greyjoys destroying the Lannister fleet and then harassing their coast and making things really difficult for them, especially after they sent their army into the Riverlands. Like, hey, all your soldiers are in the Riverlands now. So that story isn't getting told here in the TV show. There's no time for that. It really doesn't tie in very much. So we took it on. It's 2 episodes that we did with Radio Westeros, the Red Kraken and the Lion, the Kraken, and the Seahorse. So good stuff. Includes a lot of the same characters who were in the Dance of the Dragons, and we go deep with that. And it's a story that is well worth telling. We have some poll results for you. What will be in the intro next time? Meaning the intro tapestry. Most of you picked Rhaenyra on the throne as the most likely, 51%. A tie for second, 20%. Dragons over King's Landing and Otto's head, a pool of blood, something along those lines. Some sort of blood Otto head combination. Or Vhagar burning Harrenhal, which is the lowest pick, 9%. So
I'm going to say all 3 of the top 3.
It could be more. Yeah, it definitely could be more than one. And I tend to agree with y'all that Rhaenyra on the throne has got to be one of them if there's only one. If there's more than one, then I'm not sure. Yeah, since Harrenhal being burned is already in the record by Velaryons, I don't know if they need to put it in there again. But yeah, we'll see. I'm very curious. The intro crawl is a fun thing to keep track of. All right, folks. On behalf of Sean and Ashaya, I am Aziz. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We'll certainly be back with more. We're here all season long, diving deep, staying obsessed, and talking about it as much as we can. Thanks as well to Brand the Builder and Michael Klarfeld for our intros, our video intro and music, that is. And you all know what to do. Until next time, I do believe. That is, to be clear, Valar reread us and Valar rewatch us.